Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:30, and I will call this regular work session of the Burnsville City Council to order. Tonight's meeting is being conducted both in person and online. Members of the public may attend in person, and we do have some guests here in person, and or they can also watch this meeting online at burnsvillemn.gov/meetings or on Comcast Channel 16 or 859. The public can also participate through Zoom by joining us at zoom.us/join. More information is available on our meeting webpage and in the council agenda packet. This is a work session, so we go directly to our items on the agenda. But before we do that, let's just go around and introduce ourselves, and then we also have some guests who are here, and I'd like for them to be introduced as well. And so I'll go to our city manager.
Good evening, Greg Lindbergh, City Manager.
Kara Schultz, Burnsville City Council.
Dan Keeley, Burnsville City Council.
Mark Ray, Public Works.
Mike Morose, Planning Manager.
Jeff Thompson, Deputy City Manager and Community Development Director.
Garrett Beck, Parks, Rec, and Facilities Director.
Bethany Brewer, Strategic Initiatives.
Jenny Rohde, Deputy City Manager and CFO.
Vince Workman, City Council.
Dan Gustafson, City Council.
Michelle Collins, City Clerk.
Elizabeth Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville. And we're going to go to our students. Introduce yourself, please, and tell us what brings you here tonight.
I'm Zachary Pierce, and I'm here for my AP Government and Politics class over at Burnsville Next.
Okay. So when it's time for you to leave, I'm happy to sign your assignment.
Stay until the end.
It's a generous offer.
My name is Allison Cromie. I was invited here by Kara Schultz to talk about the continuation of Burnsville's Pride event.
Roger Eklund, Pickleball.
Gary Johnson, Pickleball.
So the first item is about pickleball. And we're all going to be educated tonight. And I know all of you are here because, hands up, you support pickleball, right? Okay, very good. So we know that. You're here because you want pickleball. Okay, and tonight we're going to be educated about pickleball and the funding, and it's going to be around the Alimagnet pickleball, okay? And so we're all going to be educated. This is information that's going to be given to us. And we have someone new. Okay, please give us your name.
My name is Robin Baxter.
And you're for pickleball?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I just want to make sure. And then there's many of you that have written to me, and I have written back to all of you. And so all of those who have written, you can let them know that all of that is also on record. So anything that comes in, it's public information, okay? And everybody knows your email to me and my email to you, and our city manager and was copied on all of that, as you all saw. Okay, very good. And so our first item on the agenda is the Alimagnet Pickleball Project. And Garrett Beck, our Parks, Recreation, and Facilities Director, is presenting. City Manager Lindbergh, did you want to make any introductory remarks?
I don't. I'll turn it over to Gary.
The floor is yours.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. After that introduction, I guess I am the pickleball educator this evening. So, just a little background. On October 4th of 2022, City Council authorized staff to begin exploring an Alimagnet pickleball project. And then in December of 2022, staff asked City Council that we take a pause on any new projects in our park system to allow us time to complete a comprehensive parks plan. And that parks plan was delivered in June of 2024. And in August, at the August 20th work session, City Council asked staff to bring the Alimagnet pickleball project to a future work session. And that's what brings us here this evening. So, mentioned our parks plan. That was a comprehensive review of our park system. It identified our park assets. There's over 4,900 of them. Their current condition on a 1 to 5 rating scale, and we also engaged our community to find out how they enjoy using our park system and future things that they'd like to see in our park system going forward. We're also in the middle of a park visioning project, so a quick plug. If you go to the Parks Plan on the City of Burnsville website, you will see that there are 26 basic and visionary plans for our parks that were identified as having some of our biggest needs. So that's why we picked those 26. They had the most condition 1 and 2, which were lower condition projects. So we are still inviting the community to get online if they were unable to attend the open house that we had and provide feedback. So please use the rest of October to do that if you're interested. And then we, as it mentions here, we are working to complete the park plan with additional chapters. We're looking at, our park system was built in, a lot of it in the 80s and 90s, so we're not simply just replacing things to replace them because they were there. We'll be analyzing if we need to retire some of them. We're looking at our operation and maintenance processes, and also doing a wayfinding study, and those will all be taking place in 2025. When it comes to taking care of our park system, we have split our CIP into 2 different categories. There is a park investment fund, and what that fund really identifies or gives us the opportunity to is to add new things to our park system. The bulk of that fund comes through park dedication fees, and as of right now, we have about $5.2 million in that fund. As everyone knows, we are fairly built out in our community, so there are not a lot of opportunities for additional park dedication fees in the future. So that is a challenge to growing that fund. And then the other side of the fund is the park renovation, and that's really about taking care of our existing amenities that we have in the park system. Currently, we have about $2 million a year that is levy funded to take care of those conditions that need to be replaced. And the Parks Plan identified about $7.2 million of those condition 1 and 2. So 1 is we really wanted out of the park and fixed up and or replaced as quickly as possible. And an item 2 means it's probably in the next 1 to 3 years it's going to start to drift towards a condition 1 situation. So that's our main focus right now. That's what we're working on. And then the last line you see, we have in our 76 parks, we have about $74 million of existing amenities that we need to care for on an annual basis. So as staff looked at the interest in pickleball in our community, there are a lot of things that we have learned over the years. We put in our first pickleball court system dedicated to pickleball in Red Oak Park. We've had neighboring communities and situations around the country where there's lessons learned on distances that pickleball should be from houses and whatnot. Best practices say about 500 feet at a minimum. And so as we looked at our developed community, there are some things about Alimagnet that made it an interesting potential site for future pickleball. One is it is already a busy park. There's lighting there for other activities like baseball and softball. There's a lot of traffic there and things like that. So that's what made us start to look at Alimagnet. And we had recently removed a house there, and so that space kind of became the targeted area that we looked at. And we asked our consultant to kind of say, knowing that there's not going to be a lot of opportunities to add a multi-court system in our community in the future, like what is the most number of courts that we could get into this space reasonably? And so the design that they came up with and that we worked with the community on at that time was an 8-court system. You'll see an 18-stall parking lot that is adjacent to it. And we updated our costs for this meeting and to develop a design similar to what you see on the screen. From an estimate standpoint, it would be just short of $1 million. So again, in this system, again, this was a result of not only reviewing successful pickleball projects that have happened in our state and around the country, but also engaging our pickleball community last year, the year before. You'll see there's 8 courts there. There's fencing in between. There's seating and shade structures and things like that. So that's the main, and there's lights in this particular design as well, and then the 18 stalls. So those are the major highlights of this particular design. So when you put in new amenities into the park system, you have to understand the impact it has on the overall infrastructure, and then a life cycle of not only how do you care for it, but what do you do with it when it reaches its end of life. And so there's kind of standards. You have the renewal part, which addresses the ongoing maintenance for the life of the asset itself. You have the replacement cost once it reaches its end of life. That has been obviously the need to inflate that over the time period from when you originally installed it to that 15 to 30 year time period when you replace a particular amenity. So that's what we did as we looked at the impact that adding a pickleball court at Alimagnet would have on our system and on our operations. So right now in 2024 dollars, it costs about $5,000 a court to resurface it and take care of it. So as you estimate, inflate that cost out, you're looking about every 5 years on a heavily used court like we would expect an Alimagnet location to be. So you're looking at about $46,000 to $72,000 every 5 years as that cost of maintenance inflates over the time period. And then the replacement 20 years out of $1.18 million.
So Garrett,
Yep.
to you and Jenny, because once the asset is, this new asset is then in the system, it now moves over to the other part of the, how much money we have. Right now, we have $2 million, and we, every year, through the levy, we put in. And we have 7.2 in 1 and 2 replacement cost in what we have. And we have $73 million that we have to. So I just want to make sure that when this goes in to the other funding source, that's going to be with all of the other parks. Right, Jenny?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, correct, that the ongoing maintenance and care for that asset would come out of the Parks Renovation Fund, or that annual.
So the first 5 years, $46,000 is going to be added onto all of the other 1 and 2s that we have to take care of.
It will be part of that ongoing maintenance that
Yeah.
we have to pay for.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody is clear about how we're paying for all of this and where the money is coming from.
So on this slide, again, that initial investment is $990,000 upfront at the time that it's built on an estimate. And then over the lifetime of the court system, you're looking at an additional $291,700 that you would need to allocate, as Madam Mayor was suggesting, in the Park Renovation Fund for this particular asset. And just a look at how that breaks out. The court surface requires the renewal over a 20-year period. The parking lot also at about the 10-year period you need to go in. Right now, estimates are about, that's what it would be per stall based on the 18 stalls. And then you have your fencing and lighting needs. Those are the large assets associated with a facility like this. If there were direction to move forward with this project, staff's next steps would be, again, to, it's been several months since we have engaged the neighborhood and our pickleball community and the community at large on this particular project. So we would want to revisit that with those groups. And then we would also want to re-engage our consultant on any feedback that we got from that new engagement to then work on finalizing. What you saw tonight was schematic design, so then there's design development as a next step, and then you need to create the construction documents and actually bid the project. And so from a timeline, again, I always throw out that if a consultant was in this particular side doesn't include the engagement piece, so we would need time in there to reach out to our community and do the engagement. But if our consultant just said, yep, we have nothing going on and we would love to take your project on immediately, you're still looking at a 2-month process if they could start tomorrow on it. And then the bidding process is about 2 months. Our internal work takes about a month to accept those bids and award contracts. And then, again, depending on the time of the year, obviously Minnesota weather only allows a certain construction window. So to build a facility like we're proposing in the schematic design, you're looking at about a 5 months construction. So all those add up to 10 months, but you're looking at well over a year to do the engagement and for just timelines and how they play out to actually deliver something like this if there was a go-ahead to move forward on it.
So one of the things when we get into the bids and when we're going to review the project, will we have all of the environmentals included in the development?
Yeah,
Because
Madam
one
Mayor.
of the things that some people in our community are concerned about is the impact of more surface and the drainage into Lake Alimagnet and the impact to Lake Alimagnet. So will there be a holding pond to filter the water before it gets into Alimagnet, to Lake Alimagnet?
So, great question, Madam Mayor. In this particular schematic design, and again, this has all been high level, which is what the schematic design process is about. If you look at the small parking lot there on the left, to the north of that is the pond area that they are proposing would work to help address what you're talking about. But again, those things really get into detail and become specific in the design development process ahead of the construction document and bidding process. So
I just want you to say that because people are watching and they're concerned about that.
that's an important part of taking care of our park system overall is the natural resources as well.
Yeah. And for everybody to understand when this goes through the process, it'll go to Parks and Natural Resources for their review and recommendation to us. Correct?
That is certainly a possibility that we can add that into the timeline as a step of the process, yes.
Yeah, because I think they need to take a look at that because Parks and Natural Resources has to do with natural resources and it has a direct impact on the lake quality. Okay. Yes, Councilmember Schultz.
So in looking at the site map, off to the right of the pickleball court, there is a large parking lot. And that is correct, that is the parking lot that already exists, where that little walkway goes right off to. So my question is, although the 18 extra parking spots would be handy, to me they seem redundant, not needed. So what would this project look like cost-wise without adding those 18 extra spots?
If the preference would be to not include those extra spots, you're looking at the upfront cost of about $100,000, and then the maintenance associated with it, the $56,700 over the course of it. So about $160,000 difference.
Mayor, members of the council, Garrett, if you can go back to the schematic. Kara, your question is about that segment at the,
Left.
yep, that was a part of a larger plan, $2+ million project that included additional parking for the entire park. We have removed that in the scope of this project. So, Garrett, am I following that correctly?
So actually on this particular photo here,
Or is that
if you follow
existing?
the walking path to the right side of the screen, that would connect up to an existing parking
is
lot that
existing, okay.
supports the two baseball fields.
My
So-
apologies, I thought it was part of the other
Yep.
project. Thanks for clarifying that.
And although it's not on there on the screen, we're kind of looking at it online. Like, and there's also like a couple parking spots that are right where that trail starts, so those could be designated for ADA spots.
Yeah, Councilmember
Have
Keeley?
we ever, and I kind of had shared similar thoughts as Councilmember Schultz. It's just, I know we're adding it, and I'm thinking, well, it actually looks like the entrance is coming off the larger parking lot, and that one is like, well, we've got room, let's make some parking there. But do we have any data, parking study data on Alimagnet? Because when you go there and there's not a major tournament going on, if there's just some league games and that kind of stuff, I feel like sometimes it's a little bit like the mall, where you have this monster parking lot and it's only a fraction is being used. I'm sure during a tournament, it's overwhelming and they're probably parking on the streets. But is the 18 indicated by the usage in any way? Was it like required by parking rules to put the additional spots in?
Yeah, Councilmember Keeley, and the parking situation is the magical question on this. When we look at building facilities, you don't build a facility for the one or two major events that could be so extreme that you're trying to fill every spot. What we do try to do is, when we're doing a facility like this, is we try to go in and do it once and not have to go back to it again. And we also try to minimize any major conflicts between user groups, because that causes issues, right? So on those days, if we build this facility on those days when, the 4 weekends out of the year when that large lot is filled and they're parking in the grass and in places where we don't want them to be parking, this facility is going to cause a challenge, and we'll have to figure out how to manage that. My personal experience, and I think our pickleball people would support it, we did expand parking out at Red Oak after we built that facility, because people were parking out on the streets and it was full. With 8 courts, you're gonna have, on a daily basis, 7 days a week, weather permitting, you'll have, during a significant block in the morning, you'll have 32, 8 courts, 4 people per court, 32 people, or 32 cars there, plus a significant number of people waiting as part of the process, right? So cut that number in half and add it to it, you're probably looking at 40 to 50 cars on an average day for a popular facility like this. We're looking at adding 18 to, again, that's not 50. And also, to try to help minimize, again, from in the evenings, when there's games going on during the week out there, you don't have the mass number of people showing up, and the interchange between different, there's a team, 2 teams playing, 4 teams playing actually in the area, and 4 more waiting to play. That's where the heavy parking. So you don't have that during the week and in the evenings. So we don't anticipate that challenge. But on those other weekend nights, Alimagnet is, whether it's the dog park or the softball fields, or it's just busy. So determining that perfect number, again, we work with our consultant. We try to be sensitive to not creating an asphalt jungle, and try to come up with something that we can show we did our due diligence. We're trying to minimize conflict, but it's not gonna be, there's no perfect answer.
If I can follow up.
Karen?
So, let me see if I understand that. The concern is when they do have the tournaments, people are parking everywhere anyway. And then you have people trying to do pickleball as well. So my question is, do you think the people that are parking in the grass and parking on the street and all that kind of stuff, that they're not going to park in the pickleball spots? Because I think they are. Like, I think those are gone.
Yeah.
So, like, and I get what you're saying of now we're adding more users, which will just create additional congestion during those specific times. But I don't see that this parking lot remedies that. And I also don't know that it's needed during the rest of the times. But I could be wrong on that. So that's my question to you.
I think my answer to that would be yes, it does not remedy that situation. What it does is it minimizes conflict up to a certain point, right? Not only is this facility proposed to go there, but this is where people park. That's the grass where they park for baseball and softball, right?
I know.
So that the spots, again, couldn't we build this and not put the parking lot in? Yes. Will people park on the grass and do stuff? Most likely they will. We just have to make a determination on it. Are the 18 spots to try to minimize how much conflict we have at different times worth it, or is it better not to do it?
And thank you, and I really appreciate that. I'm looking at this from cost, necessity, and also, yes, adding more asphalt into a park, which I'm usually, which is it's very asphalty. And so that becomes a concern of, does it look less like a park? Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Julie Mitchell, they paved.
Yes.
I'm gonna see, Vince and Dan G., any thoughts?
I think most of the questions I had have been answered.
Okay,
The only other question I'd ask, if we were to do this right away, does that interfere with any other projects that are planned?
yeah, well, I think I'm gonna ask Greg, because that wasn't one,
Or Greg,
when
either
are we
one.
gonna have the master plan for parks replacement and renovation?
Garrett can handle it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Councilmember Gustafson, I've been working with Mark and team, and we've been looking at the 2025 CIP from a park standpoint, and we have a full plate. There's no doubt about it. We're gonna try to tackle more than we've ever tackled during my time here. And we also, that same group of people also handles other projects in the city. So,
Because this picture looks like it.
and can we do it? Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna take over a year to pull it off. But a lot of it'll be staff intensive initially on the engagement piece. But our consultant's done a lot of work. They would have to, carry the water on a lot of the stuff going forward. So, do I think we could do it? Yes. So.
and Jenny, how much do we put into the parks capital plan each year? 2 million from the general fund?
It's about $2 million total, property tax levy, as well as.
That's what I
post
was
fees.
thinking, it's about 2 million. Okay,
And just for clarity, that's the Parks Investment
Yeah.
Fund.
Oh,
That's-
excuse me.
That's the.
Parks renovation. fund.
renovation.
Parks, okay.
Parks
Yeah,
renovation.
Parks
fund.
renovation, because the investment comes from park dedication. Park in,
Proposed 147.
yeah, the renovation is from the general fund.
And that's where we have the $5 million.
Doesn't exist as parking, that's the grass.
Yeah, and the 1 and 2s is 7 million, so,
Do that, don't do that.
okay. Vince?
Generally, I'm in favor of the project. I think it's something that's needed, as has been said in the many emails we've gotten. I think Red Oak is doing great, but we could use more.
Okay.
One thing I would ask the pickleball community to understand is that this park gets very busy in the summer. And when we have tournaments, even BAC in-house championship weekend, there's cars everywhere. And baseball was, and I'm not trying to sound like a jerk, but baseball was there first, and so we need to have some understanding that this is a very busy, popular park for a reason. It's one of our premier parks. And so we need to have a little grace when it gets busy down there and understand that those tournaments are scheduled and programmed well ahead of time.
Okay. Yeah, Dan?
Looking through the background, I don't think it was in your slides, but there's concept 1 and concept 2, and I misunderstood concept 1.
I did too.
As the 22,280 square foot parking to the right of the pickleball courts. I thought that was existing parking that was just being considered allocated toward the courts, and these on the left, the 18, were the only net new. It's actually, all of these on the right are net new, correct?
Councilmember Keeley, the schematic that you're looking at there was not something that we felt was appropriate to pursue. So
Yeah.
that was, again, when we work with the consultant, they look at the use and they look at what they think should be provided.
Right.
Given all the use in that area. But for many of the reasons we're discussing tonight, that this, the $990,000 does not include that particular part of the parking.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay, so,
And you're looking at the website.
At our background.
yes, well, it's, this is
Yeah.
our website, sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't pull it out of the background. Because it's on the information that you said for people to go to, so I went there.
Sure. Oh, yeah, that's the original, that was,
Yeah.
when we were first directed,
That
that
was
was kind
last
of,
year.
yeah. We had
Yeah.
a number of different,
Yeah.
like, we had a 6-court, an 8-court, a variety of different parking, things like that, so,
We're just talking about the 8-court that you're
Yes.
presenting tonight.
Correct.
And
So then
that
this is
will,
just ground. So they're gonna park on it anyway.
now that we
Yeah.
understand, we have 5 million in the investment fund, and it's 900,000 to build what you have presented tonight. And then it's going to shift, once it's a new investment, it's going to go into the renovation area. And it'll be put into your capital improvement plan. Yeah, okay. So that's what I want us to all understand, how much all of this is going to cost under the parks renovation, because we only put in from the general levy every year $2 million. And we have already over 7 million in 1 and 2s out of the 76 parks that we have. And we have a total of 73 million for renewal and replacement. Okay, so let's make sure that we all understand all of that. But, this is something that we've been talking about and something that, our community needs, and we want to make sure that our people are healthy. And this is one of those activities that, a lot of, our community, use for their health and well-being. But that's not to take away from all of the people who talk to me about tennis. And I think, City Manager Lindbergh, we have 13 tennis courts that are going to be on a CIP.
Mayor, our draft CIP included up to 13
Tennis
tennis
courts.
courts for rehabilitation. Garrett's telling me right now that it's currently 10.
Okay. So those are sticks in my head, because we have to fund all of this. So we have $5.2 million in the investment fund, so which means that we can build this 8-court, pickleball court. So we have it. Where it becomes a concern for me when we go into the renovation. but that's going to be on you and Mark and the CIP. And it has to all go through Jenny. And then she has to give her blessing before it comes to us. So, okay, members of the council, we have the money in for a new investment. But for me, it's in a renovation, but,
I think we should move forward with this project.
okay. And Vince, I understand, and I like what you said to everybody. Let's all play nice together. And everybody will be happy.
Hopefully.
Yeah, okay. Kara?
I mean, residents have made it very clear for a while that this is an amenity they want in the
Yeah.
city,
And
flat
it's
out.
for their health and well-being.
Is it appropriate if we ask our residents, hearing what
think-
it looks like and hearing the costs, how do they feel
I
about
think
it? Since
Garrett
they're the
has
most
talked to all of them.
passionate advocates?
You've seen this already, right? Yeah, they all. Garrett has done a very good job of having conversations with all of them. Why? Because I talked to them also.
That's awesome, but I have not had a conversation with them,
Okay.
and neither has rest
So
of council.
what do you want to hear from them?
What I wanna hear is this what they're looking for? And knowing the cost and knowing the future maintenance, are they comfortable with that as well?
Okay.
I think that's reasonable to get their feedback, cause
Is
they're the
there-
most
okay,
passionate,
Mark-
like they showed up
Mark, are
here.
you going to speak for all of you because you have, yeah,
Say a couple things.
yeah. Come over here, Mark, so that people at home can
I know
hear
I'm
you.
putting you on the
Yeah.
spot, but you guys came all this way and.
Yeah, they all came together.
This is
and
the
they all
prize
have
for
been
all of your
talking
That's
together.
right. See, no
Yeah.
good deed goes unpunished, sir.
And Mark has been like their spokesperson.
Not really. Basically, it's been Peggy.
Okay,
But
pull your microphone down and then give us your name and
it's
for the
Mark
record.
Pevan, and I've been a Burnsville resident since 1979,
And served on our Ames Commission.
for about 6 years, yes.
Yes.
And one thing, I started playing pickleball a few years ago, and one of the things in Burnsville I've noticed is that in the mornings, the 6 courts that were basically renovated tennis courts get extreme play all the time. One of the ladies that's not here tonight said that on the weekends, those courts, there's waiting times on the nice days. People are waiting with their families and things like that. But when you're talking about the parking lots and things like that and interfering with baseball, when I go play in the different communities where they have 8 courts or 10 courts or things like that, most of the play is between the hours of 7 in the morning till about 2 in the afternoon until it gets too hot, and then in the evening. And it's usually Monday through Friday. Weekends, there's usually other things going on. Then you'll have families coming over and things like that. But the bulk of the play seems to be, that's gonna be during the weekdays. Would you agree? So I don't think there'd be any interference from the baseball groups and things like that. The parking lot issue, if there's ample parking over there now with the baseball, that's something you could save money on probably by not putting the 18 spots or whatever. But that'd be your call.
Thank you.
Is that about it?
Yeah, and we understand that you all are very reasonable. You just want more courts to
Well,
play.
it's, pickleball's turned into a social environment.
Yeah.
And it's usually from people that are 60 all the way to 85 or 90. And it's a social gathering.
Yeah.
Sure, there's some competitive things, but it's more social than anything else. People our age usually don't go out and play basketball. We're not doing the other things in the park. We might use the walking. But right now, pickleball has replaced tennis and things like that because, that's what we can do, so.
Okay,
all right.
thank you so much. And thank you to all of you who, and for talking to me and writing and, yeah, but thank you. So,
Who's Peggy?
Peggy is.
She's in Oregon.
Oh,
she's, yeah, she knew that you would be represented, yeah. Okay. Members of the council, I think our staff is just looking for some feedback to go. So there's, move forward, and then they're
I'll go
going
back
to.
to the passion that I brought forward that sort of required us to bring this forward, because I got support from two other council members. I was very frustrated that it took us this long to get to this point, but we had a bigger, more comprehensive plan
Yes.
that was worth the investment. It did add to the cost of this, but the demand is still there, the location is still ideal. And so, I didn't say it this way then, but I'll say it now, build, baby, build.
Okay. Garrett?
For
And
clarity,
this will
as we're,
take, how long before we have it built? You said about 7 months?
no,
A year?
no, it'll
I
be.
know, well, you said if the consultant and the
Yeah.
builder,
Grand opening Labor Day
ground tomorrow.
2025,
Yeah, so,
if we're lucky. I'll wait.
yeah, there you go. See?
timeline, this doesn't include the engagement piece, nor does it include getting on the PNRC schedule and things like that. So, just the time to do the actual work, if you could schedule it and not have any delays for any reason, including weather, you're at 10 months there. To do the things that we're talking about, you're probably adding another 4 or so months. So, I would say, and again, it's the schedule and the timing. You can only put courts in at certain times of the year. So, we'll start with a phone call tomorrow, if that's the direction tonight, to start looking at engagement processes and hearing from our consultant what their timeline looks at. From a clarity standpoint, there seems to be some questions about the need for the 18 stalls. If there is direction, it'd be nice to know whether that includes the stalls or if we should focus on just the design without that and just using the existing parking.
Well,
I think
it
you
just
should have the
takes
parking myself.
$100,000 off the bill.
I think you should have the parking out there.
I'd rather do it right the first time and then come back in
I don't
a
wanna put
couple
a
of
lot
years
in
and say.
4 years.
Yep.
Okay. You want to leave it as it's presented with $100,000, okay, for the 18 spaces?
I don't have a super strong one way or another. I just question the need for it, and I also question the location instead of on the other side where there's already parking. Like, instead of building onto a lot that's already there, we're making a new lot in a new area. But I wonder if that's a strategy to hide the parking from baseball.
It wasn't a strategy to hide, it was just to separate users, to avoid conflict as much as possible. So, I haven't looked to see if we could shift, if we could just shift and
Don't
expand
worry
that.
about it, don't worry about it.
And Garrett, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been wrong several times tonight already. There was some issues related to parking on this project. We didn't want to impact large mature trees, which was kind of the issue to the, if you go back to the schematic to the right. And there's also some topography, some grade over there that caused some additional expenses in terms of moving earth. Is that, am I
That
following
is
that
correct. So
conversation correct?
to the right of the path where we would look at expanding, there's a large hill and trees there. This area that we're using, there was an existing parking lot there for the house and it's flat. So it would be the cheapest and easiest place. And it also does separate the users, so there's some design advantages there.
That works, and I don't want you to go through extra work for this.
Okay.
I assumed you had already looked at things, and there were reasons why yes or no on certain things. Thank you.
Vince is a yes, you're a yes, so it's unanimous. Greg? Are you okay with the nonverbals that I'm looking at, or do you want to, yeah? Okay, so there's, yes, you already said.
Mayor Council, I have my direction. We will
Okay.
move the project through construction is presented in schematic design, working through the issues that design development and construction documentation will bring with. Many of the questions about parking and cost and that type of thing, we'll make adjustments to be effective and efficient as we usually are in these projects, and keep the council and the community informed along the way.
Yeah, and Garrett, just so that those who are concerned about the lake, I think you have a holding pond. So make sure that the folks who talk to you about their concern about the lake, that there is a pond that will filter the runoff before it gets into the lake.
Correct.
Okay?
And I would like to thank everybody for
Yeah.
your emails. If just
And-
kind of goes to show that if you want something done and you communicate it, we're here to listen and react, and for any reason. So I appreciate you guys staying persistent on this.
Well, but, and for writing,
And being
you all
patient.
were so very respectful, even when Mark comes and talks to, but, you know, you all really care about and understand our process, and that I hope you understand that we have to be good stewards of your money, you know? So, and also, all, the 76 parks belong to all of us, and so we have to be good stewards of those, too. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for coming. Okay. Okay, thank you. The next item is our legislative agenda, and our fire chief, BJ Jungman, is presenting. Chief, floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. Just wanted to run through a draft legislative agenda for 2025 and get any feedback the council may have. You'll see the handout, the draft legislative handout in front of you. I also have the topics up on the PowerPoint slides. So for top priorities, we continued to have emergency medical services proposed. And this is really about modernizing the Minnesota regulations of the emergency medical services and allowing communities to adjust based on their evolving needs. The second is a little bit of a broad category about local control, and that we seek special legislation to provide the abilities that the city wants and not take away any authority that we have. Generally, throughout the legislative session, there's proposals that restrict what cities can do, and we use this as a tool to lobby against that and make sure that the city council has every tool available to them. Down below that, we also have our construction sales tax exemption. This is for the PD City Hall addition renovation to get the sales tax exemption. The police department is already considered sales tax exempt, public safety buildings are, but the city hall portion is not. We would like to extend that to the city hall portion as well. We were not successful last year in securing that legislation, but hope to get that done this year. So those are kind of the top priorities. Any feedback on that? All right. On the back is the support. Oh, go ahead, Mayor.
Our water treatment plan?
Yep, we'll get there in just.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
Yep. I'll go to the back first, and I'll come back to the funding request. So supporting positions, host community economic development grant program, again from hosting the landfills. We've had that on there for a number of years. We want to continue to have that program. The aggregate mining fee, given that we have an aggregate mine in town, and then the freeway landfill and dump remediation. I think all three of those are very perennial and very aware to the council. Supporting positions, some more franchise fees. This is one we added this year as a proposal to continue to monitor to make sure that that there is no restrictions on those or no further restrictions on those, since we do use those for facilities projects and they're important to the sustainable funding of those projects. We also propose adding school resource officer legislation implementation. We think that this is important to make sure that the legislation is implemented as intended as the state agencies make rules around the legislation that was proposed last year and passed. And then the last one that we would propose is supporting statutory Plan B administrative purchasing policies. So statutory Plan A cities have a broader Purchasing authority administratively before council approval, statutory Plan B has not kept up with that. The current threshold of 20,000 has not been updated in over 2 decades. So it would be nice to update that to a modern amount that would be commensurate with Plan A cities. So those are our supporting positions. Any questions, comments, feedback? All right, then I'll go to funding requests. We continue to pursue bonding money for the water treatment plant. We actually had a conference call with Senator Pappas, who chairs the Capital Investment Committee today. She wants to make sure that we're still interested in pursuing that and what kind of progress we've made on that. And if you remember, last year we were asking $7.75 million. The updated costs are $8.55 million. And that's for the state's 50% if they would fund that. I would tell you that 8.55 is a big ask, given how they spread all that money across the state. But as we told her, we can phase it and work with whatever they can give us. So, but continue to pursue money from the state to help us renovate the water treatment plant and modernize our filtering technology. Then the next one is the Highway 13 and Nicollet mobility improvements. And really, that one isn't so much legislative, but it is more about working with MnDOT to have them allocate their trunk highway funds. We've gotten all we can from bonding money at this point, and we need MnDOT to help fill that $52.1 million gap. Our understanding is the county has put $2 million back in their CIP to help support this in Dakota County. So we look forward to funding that and getting that project kicked off in the next couple of years here. So we continue to pursue those requests. Like I said, the MnDOT one is more of a statement to try to get MnDOT to support this reconstruction. So that's what I have quickly from a legislative agenda. Any questions, comments, feedback?
Vince?
BJ, thank you. One thing I just want to make sure that the school resource officer legislation, if it's looking like that is going to get walked back in session after election season is over, I would want to be prepared to launch that higher up in our priorities, because I do think that's a very important issue. I'm fine with it being a supporting position right now, but if things change and people walk back certain positions, then I would want to be more upfront about advocating for that.
Absolutely, Councilman Workman, I appreciate those comments, and we would definitely bring something back to the council and inform the council if we saw that go that way legislatively. Really, this is a kind of, again, more of a government relations perspective that we're hearing that the agency is going to make rules around that statute that may restrict some things, and so we want to push on those things to make sure it was implemented as intended. But I would agree if it comes back to a legislative position, we will definitely make sure the council is informed on that. And as you know, that was our top priority last year, and is very important to maintain that relationship and our involvement in the schools. So.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts? If not, I think everyone is in favor of that, and so the next thing is we have a conversation with our legislative delegation.
So, Madam Mayor and members of the council, we would bring this back on your consent agenda just to formally approve for 2025. And then talking with Lockridge, our lobbying firm, we would probably bring the legislators in the work session in January.
Yeah.
It is a long session this year. They actually start January 14th, which is the same day as our work session. And we have an election, so we want to wait until the election is settled before we settle on a date and invite them in. But yes, we would bring them in for a briefing of our legislative priorities.
Yeah. In the meeting that BJ and Greg and I had with Senator Pappas, who chairs the investment bonding committee, she was really very supportive of what we're doing, and like everything else, explaining how much money they have to spend throughout the whole state. And so very supportive of our phasing it, and we'll keep working away at all of that. So thank you, Chief. Yeah.
Thank you for your support. We'll keep plugging away at it.
Yeah, thank you. The next item is the heart of the city. Our Deputy City Manager, Community Development Director, Jeff Thompson. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So as just a brief background on this, as you recall, at our January offsite meeting, the agenda included a discussion amongst the council and leadership about our future vision and what that looks like in 5 years. And as part of that discussion, the council asked staff to come back to a work session to talk specifically about the vision for Heart of the City. So that's what brings us here tonight. We're not going to go through, as I said, Mike and I have been learning a lot about the Heart of the City's history. We won't go through in all the detail. We put some of the background in the council's packet. But in general, the Heart of the City came out of a community visioning process that was done in the mid-90s. Started in 1993, called the Partnership for Tomorrow. It was a robust engagement with a number of community stakeholders, and it wasn't just focused on Heart of the City, it was really focused on the future of Burnsville as a community.
Yep, partnership.
And that transitioned into one of the projects that came out of that was actually a streetscaping project to improve kind of the street aesthetics of Burnsville Parkway and Nicollet Avenue. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of further evolved into the late 90s is when the original Heart of the City framework plan was adopted. And that was adopted in 1999. And that was for we'll look at it in just a second, but that kind of 54-acre town center along Nicollet Avenue and generally along Burnsville Parkway. Once the framework plan was adopted, then we kind of put in the regulatory frameworks, right? We adopted or amended our comprehensive plan to reflect that vision framework, and then put in place a new zoning in the area, the original HOC zoning, to regulate and zone the future development in the area. So this graphic shows on the left is actually the original framework plan from 1999 for that 54-acre town center area. And then the aerial photo on the right is actually from 2023. And oftentimes these framework plans are where it's an existing development where there are multiple owners and different uses. It was a concept and a vision, but as you can see, the development pattern that has really happened over the last 30 plus years has been very consistent with that original framework plan. So that's the main takeaway is one, that it has developed very consistent with that framework, and it is pretty much built out. There's 2 remaining vacant parcels within Heart of the City. There's the one just south of the Ames Center, a small parcel that's owned by Sherman Associates, and then the vacant parcel just east of the CVS, so smaller parcels of land. And then, of course, not every parcel is developed in the area, but there are some remaining that could in the future redevelop, but not a lot of development potential within that original 54-acre town center. And then I would, the background kind of transition to the second phase or second iteration of the implementation of Heart of the City, which was in 2020 when the city transitioned from the HOC zoning to the current zoning, which is the TOD, or the Transit Oriented Development District. And so as part of that, the HOC zoning was eliminated and all of the properties within Heart of the City were rezoned to the TOD. And as we'll look at in just a minute, that was actually expanded in its footprint from that original 54-acre town center. As you know, the TOD district is very different. Right? It doesn't function like a traditional zoning district. It's more form-based in that it's focused on building design and building placement within a site and kind of the urban form of the development, more so that it is in what the uses of the building are. So it's more flexible in terms of uses and more focused on design. And then it did allow for an increase in density within the area as part of the multifamily developments to support the transit. And so this map on the left is the original HOC zoning. So the light pink on the right-hand side is the original HOC 1, and then the darker pink magenta color on the is the original HOC 2. And then on the right, you can see the expanded area for where the additional areas on the west side of 35W were expanded into that TOD zoning, and then some of the additional parcels on the south side of Burnsville Parkway that were incorporated into that zoning. And then lastly, in terms of the council's updates of the zoning regulations, is in 2022, the council adopted the HOC public space guidelines, and these are really focused on the streets and the city-owned properties and rights-of-way. So the intention of this was to provide an improved connectivity to the transit stations that are there, developing a complete street network of streets, accounting for different mobilities of pedestrians and bikes and transit as well as vehicles, and then promoting kind of an enhanced public space design and wayfinding element within the district. So that very quickly is kind of the history of the vision and implementation work that has happened in Heart of the City since 1993. We did, just to kind of, for reference, kind of compile all of the recent development that's happened in Heart of the City. There's been a lot that's happened since 2018, and this shows all of those projects. It is primarily, or predominantly, very predominantly, multifamily residential, as you know, and that's not surprising. A couple of the projects do include a small amount of retail, but largely we are seeing the multifamily being constructed in Heart of the City. And since 2018, under construction or planned or completed, there's over 1,000 units of housing that's been built in Heart of the City. So a lot of new housing being constructed. I think when we, just to kind of wrap it together from 1993 today, I think the vision or the purpose intent of the HOC district has remained similar. It's certainly changed in its zoning application and how we do the development regulation, but I think the purpose and intent or vision has been that it's a different place than other neighborhood centers or commercial centers within the city. It's bringing those arts and cultural amenities into the area to build tax base. I think secondly, it's obviously a very different urban form. It's doing a more kind of traditional type of development than a suburban model. And then focusing on enhanced streetscaping elements, those streets and sidewalks and the public plazas that create an enhanced streetscaping. And lastly, being a mixed-use district. So it's a district that even today, under the TOD zoning, allows for a broad use of mixes and to integrate that kind of retail, commercial, housing, arts and culture into kind of a mixed-use district. So with that, that's the quick background that we've provided. We want to provide to the council just to frame what the background is on the vision and where we're at today in terms of Heart of the City. And I think the core question for the council for our feedback tonight is, do you want us to revisit the vision for Heart of the City? And that would be for the council's consideration.
I was just gonna say, I've been around for a lot of that time that this Heart of the City's been growing. Of course, our mayor has one of the people that actually got it going. We've been on this track for 30 years, as you said. We're making really good progress, and we're getting to the point of no return where we've got 2 parcels left, and that's it. So I don't know how you change the vision for the Heart of the City with all the new that's in the Heart of the City today.
Kara?
I'm actually good with revisiting the vision, and it's not that we're gonna change it. It's that so often when we're talking about what the Heart of the City is, what we're discussing is what the original plan for the Heart of the City was, not what it is now. And at times, and I don't think those two things match. And that's nothing bad, and it's not a failure. It's how it developed, and I don't think it needs to be a lengthy revisit on what the vision is and how it is. But I think it would be good for us to all have a discussion of what is the Heart of the City now? How is it functioning now? What do people like about it? Are there little tweaks that could be made, like that type of thing? I don't see a problem with that because it has filled out. We do have a lot of people living there and working there, and I think how it is now is a success. And so I would like to take a closer look at that.
I guess, Kara, I'm kind of in agreement with you. I, grew up watching this evolve, and I think the anticipation here, and again, nothing I'm saying is trying to throw shade at how it has developed, but I think there was an idea of, I've always wanted to see more ground floor commercial, top floor residential, and it seems like every project that's come through has pushed all of that commercial development to the side. I'm not saying that we have to make that some new requirement, because as Dan said, there's not much left. But, is there still room to kinda salvage some of those founding ideas of what this was going to be? I don't know.
Well, one of the things is we always work together with the property owners. And they come in and we always have said that we'd like to have retail on the first floor, to have commercial. And at the end of the day, it's what they can do with their property, right? And we work with them. We don't become obstacles
Right.
in terms of their progress and what's going on with their property. But we're always there to help facilitate all of that. And it's not for lack of trying, especially when you look at Grand Market Place, okay? At one time, we envisioned restaurants on that first floor. Councilmember Keeley could probably speak to,
That I live in a building that's on the parking lot of the old Kmart?
no. Grand Market Place
Yes.
and having a merchandising endeavor in there. It's all about traffic also, right? So it's not for lack of trying, and I talk to a lot of those developers, like Andy Chase. And, you know, they want it too, but they have to get the people who want to also be there. But I think if we continue to encourage that, that'll be good. Jeff, with the Roars building, are they going to do some commercial on the first floor? I don't think so.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, so Roars is the project at 151 and 201 Burnsville
Yeah.
Parkway that just got fenced in.
Yeah.
The property is certainly zoned for mixed use to allow the vertical mixed
Yeah.
use, ground floor
Yeah.
retail and housing above, or horizontal mixed use where there's housing and commercial. We talked to them about that early in the development phases, and they ultimately decided to move forward with the project, which doesn't include any retail or commercial. And the way our zoning is written, the way the TOD is zoning is written today, although it allows for the retail on the ground floor, it
Yeah.
doesn't require it. And so they complied with all of the TOD zoning requirements. And then, which we didn't talk about, we're able to just receive the design approvals without going through the council's review process. So I think that when I talk about the flexibility of the TOD district, that's
Yeah.
a specific example where we certainly are flexible in what we allow, but that can mean at times that we're not prescriptive in what's required,
That's
especially
right.
on that ground floor.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, maybe the original vision included more ground floor retail, but I think as the development has changed and the market has changed and we're responsive to what the development community is thinks can happen there, ultimately, I think that resulted in the current zoning regulations, which are much more flexible and don't require strict application of commercial and retail on every site or certainly on the ground floors.
Yeah. So it's not for lack of trying, but it is property owners, but we work with them. So what kind of revisit would you like to do?
I think it would be helpful if staff would do a presentation on what does Heart of the City look like now? How does it function now? What areas appear to be functioning really well? What areas went with the original vision and what ones did not? And not looking at it as, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like, that's not what I mean. But just this is how it is. So how do we, because like an original idea was that it would be an area where it would be very walkable and that type of thing. And it isn't. Like, it really isn't. So that's okay. We just need to know that that's what it is, so we can look at it Are there ways we could make it more walkable? Or is that just not something that is going to work for that specific area? Or will work for certain areas in it, but not others? That's what I'm looking at, is can we look at how is it functioning right now? And what will or can it look like coming up? Is it still meeting the needs? Are our business owners there happy with how it's functioning? You know, maybe talking with them a little bit again. You did the visioning and you had so many people involved back then. And it really was a community-wide effort. And now that we're getting to the point where almost all the parcels are developed and all that type of thing, I think it's good to look back at it. And I see this as a very positive thing. So it would be a kind of a nice little end cap, right?
Yep. Now, when you say it isn't walkable, those of us who live there, it's walkable, because we walk to Cub, we walk to the Ames Center, we walk to the park, we walk to CVS, we walk. We
But
walk all
people
the way.
are not going there and then walking around and doing multiple activities. It's still drive in, drive out. It's very specific. So,
You mean other people who don't live in the
correct,
district?
correct.
Because the people who live in the district do walk all over. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so, and I think that the vision of it was a little wider of, this was going to be an area where people could go, right? Not just live there, but go, and then they could, you know, walk around and attend all these things and that type of thing. But that doesn't seem to be the flow pattern. Now, I could be wrong on that, and maybe that's what staff will be able to tell us.
You know,
But the feedback that I'm getting from residents is it's a drive-in, drive-out. Residents who live there, little different experience. That's okay. That's okay to have a different experience based on whether you live there or don't live there. I don't see that as a negative.
Okay. So how does this look like to all of you? I mean, this is going to take some staff time. One of the things that I look at, and I think, so the plan was adopted in 1999. And in 2004, the market value of that area was about 8 million. Mike, you did the analysis for this. And in 2019, the market went up to about 84 million. And now in 2024, the market value of the area is 202 million. And so I look at the return on investment on a lot of that, is that we're doing a lot of great things, but I get what you're saying. You're saying, is it, so one of the things, as you say, do people walk from other areas? So I'm thinking of Ivana. So do the people who live over there, we have sidewalks, they can walk to the heart of the city. And I do know that they walk across and go to Cub, but they live in those apartments.
Right.
Now, if I go further on down to Stratford, and I'd have to ask them if they walk. So now I
Right,
walk.
and I don't know that.
See, and
Yeah.
and that's what you're getting at.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
is the people who live in Stratford walk? The people who live in Councilmember Keeley's neighborhood and also at Meadowwood, they all walk, because I see them.
But
And
also,
but
part of
what
the
you're talking
information you
about
just
is all of
gave-
the people who live along the parkway.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like just surrounding it, yeah. You know, are there areas where there's almost like natural dividing lines that people don't cross to walk? Because, you know, people do that, right? I mean, it's just like a lot of us won't go north of the river, right?
So what you're
But that's
looking
Bloomington's there. But also, like what you said, when you were talking about the ROI of the area, that's important information for us to look at, right? What were the property values then? What are they now, adjusting so that we have an apples to apples?
Yeah.
I think that's super valuable information and valuable information for our residents, especially since we do still have a lot of residents who are part of that original envisioning.
Yeah.
I think it would be nice to just have that overall look at it again.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to ask all of you, and I don't know, Greg and Jeff, to add this to your plate, because one of the things you're talking about is, do we have sidewalks? Yes, we do have sidewalks. So people can walk from Stratford Green. How do I know that? Because it's one of my routes. And all the way over to the area of Fire Station 2. Yeah, I walk all the way over there and walk all the way back because it's 3 miles and it's 6 when I do it. So it is about, then we have to look and say, do we have the right sidewalks and the trails that will then incent people to walk?
Yes.
I would
We already
say,
looking
Madam
at that,
Mayor,
though?
we had this, we asked staff from our all-day work session to bring this back, and I think we're still searching for some answers of what's potentially improvable. But the only thing that came to my mind when it comes back to us at this forum is, okay, can staff take this on? And what's a logical
It's not a
timeline?
burning design.
Yeah, it's
Burning
not a
timeline.
time-sensitive thing.
Yeah.
But we would like to see some more information, because I think it's gonna uncover some things that we can
Yeah.
potentially improve the heart of the city with. But other than the wayfinder signs, which I think are on the way.
Yeah, those are on the way,
think some of them are
because
out
I
already.
think we saw it in one of the, but one of the things that I always like to look at our market value, and the market value for the city right now. The whole city is at 8 billion, or is it 9 billion? Jenny, 9 billion? 9 billion, yeah, 9 billion.
Over 9.5 billion.
So all of that is good information for our residents to understand that how we continue to hold on to our AAA bond rating. Because they see that the city continues to increase in value. So that's a good thing. So I think if you all would, this is, what I'm hearing is that it's not urgent.
No.
And you're looking at walkability and how do you incent other people to walk there?
Well, we've been looking at replacing sidewalks down there for a while because we understood those were an issue for us. And so I think just our ongoing maintenance of that area, the way we do the heart of the city, we have people in the heart of the city every single day doing work and coming back to us with what needs to happen down in that area. And again, I think we're so far along in this thing that you have to monitor it, I get that. But whether someone walks from 2 miles away to come to the heart of the city to walk there or not, I'm not sure that's what the heart of the city was about. It was supposed to be an urban, walkable area where you could live, work, and play, and that's what it's become.
Yeah, one of the things, you look at the Nightseed property that now belongs to Sherman, that's just south of the Ames Center. That's already been approved. And it's integrated mixed use, so the first floor is for commercial, and then housing on the next 3 floors. I don't know if Sherman's even entertaining that. You haven't heard from Sherman about the Nightseed property, have you?
Building big buildings in the Twin Cities now.
No, we approved it, and it's a project that's approved, but it's about the property owner and whether they can finance it and put it up. So, okay. I think Greg and Jeff, what I'm hearing is that it's just taking a look at it, but it's not an urgent thing. I don't,
Excuse me, Mayor and Council. Yeah, I think, I just want to clarify, I think what I heard, just so I fully understand it. One, I think I heard less about, if you look at just like the original framework plan, less about, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, vision of what private development, right? The development should look like within that area, and more just about
yeah,
how
Is
is
it
it
walkable?
functioning?
It's functioning.
One, how is it functioning?
Yeah.
Compared to the original kind of purpose intent of it. And second, a little bit, if there is a deeper dive on visioning piece, it's more about the public realm areas and
Yeah.
how the
it's people walking
connections
there.
either to the neighborhood or within the neighborhood are happening.
Yeah.
Yes, and if there's any barriers to better functionality, which I would not mind if our business persons were, and residents were part of that discussion of, are there any pain points that they're experiencing that we're unaware of? Is it anything we can assist with? We might not, but is there anything that we can assist with on that? I mean, if we're taking a look at it, might as well take a little peek.
So let's see. Vince, I heard you say that you're,
I guess I'm always looking for what's the end game, what's the goal.
yeah,
I'm struggling on what the goal is. Because if it's a lack of activity down there, I mean, then I would go back to my original point and say that, well, it's because it's mostly apartments and people that live there are gonna walk, but for a restaurant and our theater, there's just not a lot of other things for people to sprawl out and go to, except for that little chunk around the park right there. So, I mean, I can tell you right there, that's probably why you're not seeing a lot of movement outside of that core area.
Nicollet Plaza you do, because there's a lot of people who walk to Nicollet Plaza because Cub is there and
Yeah.
other, there are other restaurants in that area. But again, there's a lot of people who live
Yeah.
around there. So.
Well,
Yeah,
I did talk to a restaurant manager in that area who's been there a long time. They've worked there for 3 years, and they said since all of the new apartments have been built, they have seen no evidence of any increase in business. And one comment was, they're not coming in your door, they're just ordering online DoorDash and having it delivered to their apartment.
so they're getting business, but it's mostly because of the other businesses that make it convenient to order, and then they,
Yeah, pre-pandemic with
Yeah.
all these apartments, I think the restaurants would have seen significant visible walk-in traffic, but post-pandemic,
people just like,
explosion of DoorDash and Grubhub.
well, they
it's-
like,
and
they like
Uber
that
Eats.
convenience.
It's the folks that are, the younger folks, and even the empty nesters who are in those apartments are enjoying delivery to their door. So they don't have to leave.
Okay. Well, there's not much we can do about that, but we also like to
Correct.
support businesses.
Somebody still has to make the food and package it up and send it.
Yeah. Okay. So, I don't understand, so are you in favor of looking at, having staff look at all of this?
Yeah, I'd like to just get a sort of a post-pandemic re-look at the heart of the city and see how if there's anything we can do in the change of direction or change of use. I'm disappointed that when I say change use, just, not so much rezone or anything, but encourage, right, certain businesses to come in. I'm only a little disappointed that Roars is not gonna put in commercial, because I think that Burnsville Parkway corridor there could probably represent more of what we envision the heart of the city, mixed use with first-level businesses and residents above.
Well, talk to MP in the 101 building.
Yeah, now that's not a mixed use, that's just an
Well,
office
no,
building that's been there
but
forever.
also that first floor is still vacant.
Yeah, it's set way back, got a big giant parking lot. It's really not the same as zero lot line
Yeah.
around front footage. You know, when you, when you walk around older areas, of Minneapolis or Chicago, any area, you know, and you get into those neighborhoods where there's residents
Yeah,
above and
yeah,
commercial.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, all the service, the dry cleaner, the store, the bar, the whatever, all the service restaurant, and you just, everything's walkable, right? So, we haven't quite achieved the demand and the services and the offering to make it more walkable.
It's
But-
about working with our property owners.
Yep, we can only, I mean, we can't manipulate the
Then,
market, we
yeah.
can only open it
We-
up and let it
we
blossom
can-
on its own.
Yeah, we can only help to facilitate, but it's their decision, it's their property.
Yeah.
And they have already met
Well, we did
The
force the
ordinance.
Maven to put it commercial.
Yeah, we did force Maven to put in that coffee shop that's still empty.
that's never been, there's no coffee shop in Maven.
And Chase was forced to put in retail as well, and most of the retail is still not leased.
Yeah, we
No.
we asked them to do it. There's no coffee shop. It's never been a coffee shop in Maven.
Yeah, it's just,
And that does have me curious, because the spots are there, but they're not, like, there's not businesses going into them. So it has me curious, why? And I don't know. I don't know.
Cost of
I,
doing business?
I mean, I'm sure it's not like the business owners who are like, no one can come in. So, I mean, like, so there's something going on. And it may be that if we take a peek at it, we can find out something that can assist, or maybe not. But I don't know that, and I wouldn't know that until we would
You know, a
take
lot
a
of
look at
restaurants
it.
take a lot of ventilation in that, and even the new buildings weren't built with that ventilation built into it, and they have to retrofit to add these restaurants, and that's been an issue at the 101 and many other buildings, that just the cost of putting a restaurant in is just astronomical these days.
Yes. Yes, it is, yeah. But there's some other retail and service industry
Well,
type,
okay.
yeah. So, yeah, but yeah, I mean, so like, I think there's a lot of successes to talk about, and I think there's also questions that we could take a peek at. But again, this is not pressing, but I just don't want it to fall by the wayside. Because you're right, this did come up in our all-day work session, and it was something that we requested staff to bring back, so
So they did bring it back.
they did.
But I think our poor staff need to understand, I think, Jeff, you heard correctly. It's not about rezoning.
Oh, no. Not.
We need to stay focused, and we need to continue on the plan that has resulted in a great return on investment for the area, and working with all of those property owners.
we're about 3.5 months away from another half-day work session
And
in late January, and we could revisit this then, because between now and then, depending on what the outcome of that planning session turns out, this may get revisited at that point with
Yeah.
other priorities. I mean, we're kind of always
I think,
revisiting our priority list and what we want staff to do, and if nothing comes up, this could
Yeah.
raise in value, or it could get pushed down
because
because
right
of other
now,
things.
there's so much in County Road 42 for economic development to focus on,
Yeah,
where there is really true return in helping.
yeah.
And we also know that Luigi Bernardi at Aurora would like to do more there. There is something, where do we put our focus? And then
Right.
there's,
You don't have to convince me. 42's been Main Street for us ever since, decades.
but
It is where
there's some
all the
activity,
businesses,
and
right?
there are property owners who want to do
Mm-hmm.
something, okay? So, and we only have so much staff to do. So where do we want them to focus their energy?
Did we make a decision?
Well,
We
you
did,
know,
I think we're just going in a
I
circle.
understand.
Going in a circle, right?
Yeah. You know, and I think Greg and Jeff would, like, Kara, I understand you want to take a look at things and say, how is it functioning? And it needs to be, so I think we have enough. I think we have sidewalks and we have bike lanes going into the heart of the city. There's not much land there to develop. I think all of that used to be KA, which is now part of MWF housing. The market rate general occupancy and the senior housing, that used to be KA land. And then the condo office is more MWF. And MWF also bought the piece that belongs to the school district on Pillsbury and the Parkway, and then roars across the street. So there is not much, because then if we cross 35W, because we took the heart of the city and went over across. I don't know. We're not going to tell those people to not do their business over there. And, you know, we say that when they're ready to redevelop, then we will work with them, but heck, I don't think
Is there a
Jim is going
specific
to.
reason why there is resistance to looking at Heart of the City?
I'm not resisting, I'm just looking at our staff.
We have already said that this is not a priority, so it is as staff can fit it into their schedule. So I redirect my question, is there a reason why there is resistance to looking at Heart of the City? I can't fathom why there would be.
Well, I don't
Why there would
think,
be,
I don't
like,
think there's
not
resistance.
not wanting to take a look at it.
There is no
It's one of our
resi-
major projects. It's considered a success in many ways. I would think that this would be something great to highlight, but if there is a reason why we should not look at it, I am open to hearing that.
I'm not resisting, I just want to understand where we put our focus with our staff and what they need to do.
I have a question for our city manager. Do you see taking a look at Heart of the City as something that you do not believe staff should do or have time for in the next 2 years?
In the next, Mayor Council, in the next 2 years, in the next year, really the time frame doesn't matter. If the outcome that the city council wishes to establish is to revisit a look at the heart of the city, we'll absolutely do that, and we'll find the capacity to do so. Yeah, it's going to take time. I think the council has talked about that. I've heard that throughout the conversation this evening. We'll want to do it well, and we'll want to understand Councilmember Workman's point, what the outcome is. But those are all things that we can accomplish through a project like this.
Would it make sense to council to then adopt Councilmember Keeley's idea that we have this as a topic, not for staff to do a report and have it ready at, but we have it as a topic at our half-day work session again? Is council amenable to that?
Yeah, we can put it on, I'm okay with putting it on our half day to have a discussion around that. And so it doesn't,
I think
so
we're
you
getting all
won't
thumbs
have
up
to
on
do
that
anything
then.
about it. So then you don't have to do anything right now about any of that.
Exactly.
And they wouldn't have had to do anything right now anyway.
Yeah, okay.
But I
They didn't know
think it
that.
is a good thing so we can move forward and stop spinning on this topic that we go for it, that we'll look at this and bring it as a discussion item at our all-day work session.
That'll be fine.
One of our viewers is happy if we would move on because they're missing the voice because they forgot to set the recorder and they want to watch the meeting, but they also want to watch the voice. So they're happy that we're moving on right now to the next item.
You know,
I'm sure our
I get,
visitor from the high school is also happy to see us.
yeah, I get text messages from people who says, haven't you beaten it to death?
This is government at its finest.
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
making you earn it tonight,
Yeah.
aren't we?
He has now decided he's never going to do
It's like,
anything with
why did I pick political science?
Okay, all right, we're moving on. You don't have to do anything. Okay?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, just so I'm clear, I have direction from the council to continue this conversation of revisiting the heart of the city vision
Or,
to your offsite.
yep,
Correct.
okay, good, very good. Now we're moving on. Transit-oriented development district, multifamily parking standards. Mike?
Yes, good
Our
evening,
planning
Mayor.
manager
Inflection in your
is
voice, Mike.
presenting. And Mike, I know you've done a very good job because I've read the background, so everybody, Mike's done a great job. Go for it, Mike.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. As previously kind of mentioned, at your February 13th work session, the final report on the multifamily parking study was presented to council at the time. And then at that time also, council requested staff to bring this item back before you at a later date. So we're here tonight. So right at the top, one thing about the TOD zoning district, it automatically reduces parking counts by 25% right at the top. So that's one item that we need, we'll take a look at as we take a look at this closer. The intent of that 25% reduction is because of the proximity to the transit stations in the area. But that's one of the reasons. The zoning district also requires, I should say, apologies, one stall per unit for apartment buildings in the district. So that is actually a reduction compared to our other zoning districts for multifamily. And then also, the district also allows for on-street parking directly located in front of the subject property to be counted towards the parking requirement. So that's another items that they kind of conflict a little bit when you look at it. The teal district further allows for further reductions if sites provide inclusion of car share spaces. Sites within 500 feet of a designated transit station can be reduced further. Dedication of land for construction of bus stops and facilities, and then pedestrian connections to bus stops. All those items you can reduce parking even further on top of that 25% reduction that previously mentioned. So the table on the screen does do an overview of our other zoning districts. So our high-density zoning district allows for 1.5 spaces per unit, plus visitor parking. There is no reductions available in that district. Then our mixed-use district allows for 1.5 spaces, plus visitor parking at 0.5, and they can reduce up to 20% if they're located near a transit station. Then the TOD district requires 1 per 1 unit to stall, and then 0.5 visitor. But that visitor parking is the one that's impacted by all the reductions that were previously presented. So if you were to take all the reductions, you get up to 50% reduction in parking for the TOD zoning district. So when staff took a look at this, our proposal is to cap the reduction in parking at 25%. Instead of going to 50, we cap it right at 50%. Also, we want to require some guest parking on site.
Yeah.
So instead of reducing it all or required to be on street, it has to be provided on site. And then also remove that requirement for on-street parking from the calculations. The whole intent behind this is to allow for additional parking for tenants on site and visitors. So they're not utilizing public spaces, public street parking, as we've been seeing run into in this district. This kind of a item we've seen occur where some sites are underparked within the district, so they're utilizing public spaces at public ramps and public street parking. So we believe that these actions would resolve this in the short term, with new projects coming on board. However, this will not address past projects, but moving forward, this is something we can address as a staff, as part of a zoning code update. The policy question for council is, does council support this proposal in the zoning code? To reduce, to cap the total percentage of reduction of parking at 25%, require guest parking for multifamily buildings, and the removal of public on-street parking from the parking calculations.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, it works, what you're proposing works, because the gallery, both of the Gallery 1 and Gallery 2 have guest parking. And so you don't have that, the on-street problem. The Maven, somehow, we missed that one. So, do you like what the staff is proposing? I think that'll solve the problem.
Watertight.
And Roars is also doing surface parking along with their underground. Thank you for your guidance around all of that.
Yep.
Okay?
Yes, yeah, I think this would be something that would be beneficial in that area, which I believe overlaps with the heart of the city.
Yeah.
Perhaps this could be one of those things that could be peeked at, but yes.
Yeah, well, that's gonna happen. Okay, so, then it's going to go before the planning commission and then coming to us in December.
That is correct, Mayor and Council. So since the
Nice.
council is supportive of this, we will move forward with the amendment at the planning commission in November and bring it back to city council for approval in December.
Thank you, nice work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How fast can you build pickleball?
Okay, we're moving on. I guess there's somebody who wants to go listen to The Voice. Okay, this is, Jeff, this is yours, local affordable housing aid.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So in the 2023 legislative session, the state passed a new direct aid program to cities in the metro area to support local affordable housing initiatives. That's a revenue that the city will receive on an annual basis. It's funded by a quarter percent sales tax in the metro area. The funding started in 2024, and our total aid amount in 2024, as you can see, is just under $406,000. I would note that is based on 5 months of sales tax revenue, so we do expect future years, starting in 2025, to be higher than the 2024 amount. Important thing is that it is a direct aid to the city, so we receive the revenue directly from the Minnesota Department of Revenue, but we have to spend those funds on qualifying projects, which we'll talk about, and there is a deadline to have the funds pledged to a project within 3 years and then expended on a project within 4 years after the date of the receipt of the funds. So 2024 funds will need to be spent by 2028, and then that will roll every year as this funding is an ongoing funding source for the city on an annual basis. The state's provided kind of 4 general categories of what local affordable housing projects would qualify, and that is an emergency rental assistance, financials, direct financial support to nonprofit affordable housing providers, construction, acquisition, and rehab of affordable housing projects, and then permanent or gap financing for affordable housing projects. Won't go through this in detail, but the state has then given us some guidance about the affordability levels for the different areas. You can see it ranges from some which are restricted to 80% of area median income for rental and emergency assistance, and the home ownership programs can go up to 115% of area median income. There has been there's some guidance provided to the state about local housing trust funds. So this would be kind of a separate fund that a city could establish to support housing in the community. There's been, as I said, guidance from the state that just putting the funds into a local affordable housing or local housing trust fund is not a direct eligible expense of the aid. It's only if you've tried to spend the funds within that time period and you were unable to due to circumstances outside of our control, and the funds are transferred into that local housing trust fund to be spent on qualifying projects. So again, this is not an immediate consideration for the city, but as you think about options for this program moving forward, know that there are some constraints to doing a trust fund for ongoing affordable housing programs. It is a direct aid, so we receive the funding directly from Minnesota Revenue, and then beginning in December of 2025, we will need to start to report to Minnesota Housing how we have spent the funds and what types of qualifying projects we've spent them on, and the location of any of the unspent funds that we have. So really for the council's consideration tonight, we have three options. One is to enhance the city's existing housing, or enhance city housing programs. Second is to partner with Dakota County CDA to enhance some of their existing programs. And the third, we put out there just because the state says if you don't spend it within those time periods, we would have to return those funds back to the state for them to use on programs for affordable housing throughout the entire state. As the council is aware, we have a number of city housing programs that we currently offer. I'll talk about two in detail tonight: the Home Improvement Loan Program and the Senior Deferred Loan Program. Those two loan programs are funded. They have been funded since 2022, generally $100,000 per year to those programs, which have been funded from our EDA, our EDA fund. And then the third is the Code Cash program. That's just to help homeowners with repairs or responses to any sort of code violations they may be experiencing, and that is actually funded out of our the Community Development Operating Fund. So quick highlight of the two city housing programs. We have the Home Improvement Loan Program. This is not age restricted. It is income restricted. So our current program policies for this restrict the funds, or the program is for homeowners at 80% to 120% of area median income. The reason for that at the time was the CDA's program for home improvement loans is currently at 80%, below 80% of AMI. So there were two different programs targeting two different incomes. And then the loan amount.
Median income now for our region?
The family of four median income is $125,000. So it's based on household size.
Yeah.
And the metro area, it's given to us by HUD. The median income in 2024 for a household of four is $125,000.
Okay, so it has to be 80% of the 125.
Correct. So it's 95,000.
Yeah.
For a household of two, the household income, area median income is about 100,000.
Yeah. No, just good for our people to know what those numbers are.
Yep. Again, the loan amounts that we offer are up to $50,000, and this is a repayment loan program. So repayments become required from the onset, and there's a repayment dependent on the principal of the loan between 10 and 20 years. The second program we offer is the Senior Deferred Loan Program. This is age restricted and has a different income restriction, which is at or below 100% of area median income. The difference is this is a deferred loan, so the repayments on this are not required until the homeowner sells the property or no longer occupies it as their principal residence. A little bit lower under, again, our current program policies, lower loan amounts available in this program at up to $15,000. For both of these programs, we define what types of improvements can be made, both exterior and interior. As I mentioned, we've been generally funding this as $100,000 for both loan programs per year since they were initiated in 2022, and they are administered by the Center for Energy and Environment. We have a contract with them for them to administer these loans on our behalf. That contract from 2020 actually expires at the end of this year, so it's good timing as we think about these programs moving forward, and with the local affordable housing aid program, that contract is up for future negotiation with them. We did receive a letter from the Dakota County CDA to partner they are offering to partner with all of the cities in Dakota County to administer the housing aid to cities. Won't go through all the terms that they're contemplating within this, but really I think the most important one for the council's consideration is they're really only for the first year offering 2 potential programs to cities who choose to partner with the CDA. And the one is an expanded single-family home improvement loan program. What they're proposing is, as I mentioned, their current home loan is for less than 80% of AMI. They are proposing to expand that to up to 115% of AMI. So offering it to the range of incomes that would be allowed under the LAHA provisions. The second that they're proposing is a radon testing and mitigation program for homeowners that are doing projects within the city. So really, if we choose to partner with the CDA, we would be limited to these 2 options, which, as you can note, especially on the single-family home, really has quite a bit of significant overlap with our existing housing program. So the policy consideration for the council tonight is whether you support the use of the local affordable housing aid funds to support the city's housing programs. Can certainly provide more context into that, but we think that those programs have been successful, particularly our senior deferred, which has been funded about $25,000 per year, has had more interest than available funds on an annual basis. Now, it only funds 1 to 2 loans per year, but we've had strong interest in those senior, and even this year, we're starting to see more interest in our home improvement program than we have funding available. So we think there's an opportunity here to fund these programs. I think a couple options. One, we can offset, rather than use the EDA funding for this, transition it to the local affordable housing aid. We would need to make some program changes to each of those, but it certainly is an option for the council, especially in the first year with the $400,000. And it's something that we can focus on those 2 programs, which have been successful and be built on, and then it certainly as the funds come in on an annual basis, continue to evolve and what potential additional programs either we could help develop and administer, understanding that resources and our resources we have are limited, but what resources could we offer to develop future programs, and whether the CDA starts to offer any other kind of more expanded programs beyond what we currently have. So with that, Mayor and Council, happy to answer questions and take any feedback that the council has as we bring this program.
Questions for Jeff? Okay.
Not really a question. I'm actually supportive of using this for our local housing programs that we have set up as a council and the staff has been administrating. We have a lot of needs in our city, from senior loans to low-income type loans.
Cold cash.
Cold cash. I mean, there's a lot of different things going on. We're also at some point that I'm going to want to bring up at our all-day work session is talking about what do we do with our abandoned homes in this city as well, in which we have some. So we have to figure out some different things to do it. And I think us keeping control of this, we can look at our local neighborhoods and make those decisions here probably better than the county could for us.
Yeah, Dan Kay?
I like helping our current programs, especially now that they're growing. Maybe we can even invest in some more marketing to get more people to learn that they're available. That's not easy to do, and it takes money to get the word out. And I agree with Councilmember Schultz, who shared the radon, which that hit a bullseye with me. I experienced a home with radon, and radon, what do you call it, mitigation, right? Pumps and pipes and et cetera. So we have a lot of that in Burnsville. We definitely have a lot of radon, kind of a silent thing that most people don't even know exists. It might be in their house. So I think that's a really good program to partner with the Dakota County on. And then generally speaking, I would kind of want to hold on to, let's say the 400,000, maybe all of it needs to go there to our existing programs, or part of it can go with the CDA, Dakota County for the radon. If there's anything left, I would hold on to it. I think we're all going to be learning over the next year what are the best way to deploy these funds, these new funds. I just have one roll it back question. How do the senior program and the other home owner programs fall under the quote affordable component or qualifications of this funding source? Do our programs itself already disqualify people who are above a certain affordable house value or income, or what is it?
Excuse me, Mayor and Council, so, great question. So both of those programs are only available to homeowners. And so in terms of the state guidance, I put the chart back on the screen. For homeownership projects, the state guidance is up to 115% of area median income can qualify for, as a qualifying project for use of the funds. Now, two things, our current general home loan program goes up to 120% of area median income, so we would need to make some adjustments on that. I think the second piece is, as I said, our program doesn't fund below 80% of area median income currently, and that's because the county program is funding that. So I think as part of this, we will need to review our current program. If the council's direction is to use these funds to support our existing housing programs, a next step would be bring those program policies back to you for an update to them to ensure that we're complying with the state guidelines that have been given to us, but also that they're reflective of any sort of other changes the council may want to make, for example, for principal amounts or loan amounts that would be available for this, and other terms and conditions that we can review, which is a good thing to do anyway after 3 years of administering this program, and to make sure that it's representative of what the community need is.
Right. The reason I asked that question is sort of a reverse engineering of the qualifications. You think of affordable housing as housing that's at a certain price level, right? To make it affordable to those in that particular range. This is existing homeowners who then fit into that because their income is at a certain point or below, but they already own the home. So they're in a house, which means they could afford it, right? So I was trying to reconcile how affordability and accessibility equated to already in the home circumstances. So the income is really the key.
Vince?
I kind of agree with Dan K. I'd like to kind of pump up the programs that we do have, and then kind of support those CDA programs where it makes sense. But I think we're going to be in a trial kind of holding pattern for this first year to kind of see what comes at us. But definitely marketing those programs that we do have, considering they're successful right now.
So I like what I'm hearing from all of you. I would like the money to stay with us and fund our 3 programs, the Home Improvement Loan Program, the Senior Deferred Home Loan Program, and the Code for Cash Home Owners Program. And I'm thinking that on the radon, when you're looking at the Home Improvement Loan Program, that could be one of the things that they can do with that money there. And here's why I would like for us to be cautious about using the money internally and fund these programs, and to take the pressure off the EDA fund, so that the EDA fund is not funding these programs, but this new tax this local affordable housing aid fund will fund our program, and make sure that our EDA fund continues to grow so that we can and build to help with economic development in our city. We have a lot to do and we don't have enough money. So my hope is that council, I mean, even with the radon, it can go under the home improvement loan program, correct? So however they're going to want to use that money, it qualifies.
Mayor and council, can I clarify, are you asking the radon testing and mitigation grants whether they would qualify in our current program?
Yes.
Our current housing programs?
Yes.
Yes, yes, with the asterisks. Yes, I think those would be qualifying project expenses. The challenge is the loan amount. So if it's depending, I know it cannot, like the senior deferred loan is, the minimum loan amount is $10,000, and on the home improvement loan, the minimum loan is $20,000. So if they're just doing a radon mitigation system, it wouldn't meet that minimum threshold within our
Those
criteria.
are like
So,
$1,500 to $3,000.
yeah.
Yes.
So one of the things is that you guys can work this out, can't you?
We could parse
So
the
that
money.
we can use the
You do the
They-
rating right here.
LAH aid
Yes.
in that way. And the other thing that I want us to be very conservative and cautious about this, we serve at the mercy of the legislature. How many remember LGA? We had it, then we didn't have it. And now we have a little bit more. So,
Well, in saying that, then do we want to completely remove our EDA funds and replace it with this, knowing that it's a volatile program?
well, for right now, we can help build our EDA, knowing that this will fund
if we-
the program.
If we don't use it, we have to give it back, correct?
Yeah, but we have 4 years.
Right. So I would hope that this program will last a minimum of 4 years.
Yeah, that's me too.
That'd be nice.
That's me too. But that's why I'm saying, but in those 4
St.
years,
Paul is
my
a
hope is
tricky
that we
place.
continue to build on the EDA fund to help with our economic development initiatives. We haven't seen the strategic framework that Jeff and his team is going to bring before us on the economic development framework. They're still working on it. Yeah, Jeff?
Mayor and council, so what I'm hearing, just want to make sure I'm clear on this. I'm hearing the council interested in the radon mitigation program in general, and a need being in Burnsville. I think we do have can look at two options on that. Certainly whether the county, and I think the county would be willing to partner just on that program. There may be some challenges on that because they're going to tie it to their home rehoe program, but I think we can explore two options. One, a partnership model with the CDA for that program, and we can also look at incorporating that in potentially, incorporating into our existing housing programs as a potential qualifying option. Again, we can look at both of those options and bring it back to the council as we talk
I
about the
think
future
that would be
policy.
good, because the thing is, if the county won't allow us to just take that one option, then we can make it fit into our loan program.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I think to Jeff's point, we can explore the option with the CDA, should they be interested in partnering with us just on
That's
radon
one.
testing and mitigation. That potentially could be the most efficient and effective path, should that be a desirable program for the council. I think secondarily, to Jeff's point, if the CDA is not interested in doing that with us, we can come back to you with a discussion and an assessment on our ability to develop a similar radon testing or mitigation grant program that would qualify under the use of local affordable housing aid standards by the state.
Can I ask,
So, yeah,
just-
Vince?
are we limited to just radon in that respect? Because when I think about that, I think about something like tree removal and how that is a very expensive program or situation for homeowners. I mean, could we expand it beyond just radon mitigation and into some of those other hard-to-pay-for services that I think all of us.
What are the restrictions of the program?
Well, it's affordable housing. that
Yeah.
This money has to be
Yeah.
used for.
So here's
Right.
here's the restrictions.
And I don't want to open up a can of worms there.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, I know radon is expensive, but so is tree removal, so is mold and mildew mitigation. So I don't know how far down the rabbit hole we can go on something like that.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
the challenge with the radon removal is that it costs less than those things. When you're looking at tree removal,
Yeah,
probably not.
$3,000.
Yeah, they're gonna hit
yeah,
that loan amount.
Yeah.
So
and I think when you look at the qualifying aspects, Greg, you wanted to say something? No, go ahead.
Mayor, Council, certainly, Councilmember Workman, something that we can look at over the course of time. Should the council decide that the outcome tonight is we focus the use of these funds on supporting existing city programs,
Yeah.
and we take kind of a patient approach in really figuring out what are the ideas out there
Yeah.
for additional programming that either the city could start or potentially down the road partner with the county should the CDA have a willingness to think about additional options alongside us. Right now, they've been clear that it's these two options that we can figure out the next
Yeah.
programs to either add to the city's portfolio of resources for our residents, or partnership with the county down the road. Should that be something that meets the council's interest in the short or long term?
Hey, Greg, we got a grant here this last year for ash tree removal. It was about, what, 900,000,
yeah,
somewhere in that area?
yeah.
Is that an annual kind of thing, or is that just a one-time shot?
Look to Mark. Relief, Mark, is that an annual grant program or is it a multi-year?
It was a 3-year grant we got. However, there was a tremendous amount of support for it, and we've actually used all the funding we'd allocated for removals in this first year. So $120,000 the council authorized for this. I believe it was somewhere in the order of 80 trees were removed. There's 100 trees from about 60 properties. So tremendously successful event.
But is that something that renews itself, or just?
We would have to
that's
reapply to
just-
the whole
okay.
grant, to a whole new grant cycle
Yeah.
to do that again.
And we could go back for another grant cycle, Vince.
Yeah.
But I think just these 3 programs, and then you would explore the radon with county, and if not, the other option is that we can do it ourselves. With this local affordable housing aid fund. And then we can release the funding of these programs from the EDA fund and let the EDA fund grow. Okay?
I like it.
Like it? Good. G? Okay, you got it, because, staff wants voice.
I said,
because-
yeah. Did I not say it loud
Okay.
enough? Yes.
Okay, yes,
Muy bueno.
Yes.
yes.
Muy bueno.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, okay. You got unanimous. Okay, great. Thank you, Jeff, thank you. Okay, the next item is the Heart of the City winter lighting, and Mark Ray, our Public Works Director, is presenting. Mark, you're on.
Good evening. Moving on to a brighter topic. Yes, I've been working on that for a solid 2 hours. Very similar to what you've seen before in check-ins. Fundamentally,
Thank you.
kind of reminder where how we got here in November of 2022. City Council directed staff to evaluate future potential improvements, uplighting potential, program expansion. The winter lighting for this winter, so 2024 to 2025, is programmed just like the previous years. So lightings on the trees, snowflakes. We have the lighting in Nicollet Commons Park like we saw last year, the decorated oak tree out front here at City Hall, and then we're doing a pilot project of uplighting on the trees right at Civic Center Drive, right at the median of the entrance to the City Hall campus here. Little background on the cost of the program. These are the 2023 costs. You can see we do get a $35,000 grant from the Community Foundation. We have had regular conversations with them, and at this point, they're still committed to the $35,000, but not increasing that, at least in the foreseeable future. So from an engagement standpoint, again, we met with the foundation to talk about kind of that legacy and their goals for the winter lighting program. We met with vendors to understand, what they see from just their professional experience. We met with our own maintenance staff, talked about possibilities and maintenance challenges. And so tonight, the ask from you all is your feedback and kind of a direction of what we want to potentially include as a refresh. So I can package that up, go back to the vendors and try to get better pricing understanding to inform future decision-making. I will also be taking your feedback, going to the Community Foundation to share with that as well. So again, we're gonna actually just talk through the packet you got. I'm looking for your improvements and really trying to articulate, what is the package we're gonna try to go with, so I can understand, get pricing information to inform what the future looks like. So with that for context, this is what you see now. It's an M5 lighting with a snowflake. You see this on Nicollet Commons. This is the core lighting you see throughout the area. This is an example of what uplighting is. I do want to note clearly this was taken in a non-winter climate, as there's no snow anywhere. So that's why we're doing a pilot project to better understand what that will look like on a median in a destination snow experience. Again, here's a snapshot from along Nicollet Commons, or Nicollet Avenue. One of the options out there is just to change the lighting. So here you have the C7 bulb, which is just a slightly larger bulb, or you can go with the C9s, which again are bigger on top of that. It is important to note we do not own any C7s or C9s, so if that is something you want to explore, we need to have the conversation on is that something you want to look to own or just rent from the vendor. One of the concepts that we've talked about there is lit garlands on poles. In meeting with the Burnsville Foundation, the concept here would be doing this along Nicollet Avenue. And so one of the things you actually kind of talked about earlier with the whole HOC, in working with the Burnsville Foundation, we kind of identified 3 different user groups, let's say. So Burnsville Parkway, 134th or 130th. The vehicles there, it's vehicle traffic. That's what you predominantly see. If you look at our traffic counts, they're higher volume roads that are moving people. So people interact with those lights generally from their vehicles.
Yeah.
When we look at Nicollet Avenue, it's my favorite view of downtown Burnsville as well as downtown Minneapolis. You come over that hill, and so the idea was to try to make that not only a cool nighttime view with lights, but also add something to the day, right? So that's the concept where the garlands came, where you wrap them. It helps with some of the maintenance because you don't have trucks hitting the lights over the streets. But it gives you some color during the day as well. And then the light at night, I do want to point out there would still be the snowflakes along this corridor as well. That would go from Civic Center Parkway to Highway 13. This is called tree trunk wrapping. And so predominantly you'd see this in the commons area. It's just simply, as you can see, basically like a net mesh kind of wrapped around the tree trunks. You also have canopy lighting. You can mix and match these as well.
I like the canopy lighting.
Yeah. Another concept out there is lighting the stage. Obviously, it's a pergola in this photo. We would use our existing M5 lights, which is what we own. So if we kind of scaled back some of the lighting in other areas, we would take those lights and put them towards this. So there's no additional cost. It's just a reallocation of what's there currently. And one of the concepts out there too, to really support our businesses and just the whole reality that social media is a much bigger part of our reality now. It would be having some of these static displays. The one on the left you can actually walk through. The one on the right you'd stand in front of. The idea being a business could sponsor this, put on their social media handles or whatever. The point of this is really to make the commons a destination point, right? So you're going to dinner somewhere, you're walking to this location to take family photos or whatever you choose to do. Maybe you're going to a show, but that is the point, is that we're trying to draw you into this space.
The Leaning Tower of Burnsville.
With all due respect, I am an engineer. I prefer straight things, so let's keep it not looking like I didn't quite get it right.
It's more asymmetrical.
Yeah, that's fair. So there's an overview of kind of the high level thing. I do want to point out one of the things we've talked about is the snowflakes have lived a very good life, but they're being a little challenged. And so one of the things we've talked about is not doing snowflakes potentially along Pleasant and West Travelers Trail. Those are just on the lights to basically try to prop up our inventory until we have this longer term conversation of what could be next. Because the welds are popping, so you literally have to take them apart, unstring them, weld them, and then restring them with lights every time something goes bad. It is not an effective or efficient process. So we'd scale back on Pleasant and West Travelers Trail, which is, there's no lighting along there. It is just the snowflakes on the poles.
But you'll still have it on East Travelers Trail from Nicollet over to Eagles Ridge.
That's still that is what we're looking for feedback, as of right now, the concept is that would still be our existing lighting scheme.
Okay.
So what you see
Okay.
basically is this lighting scheme, so Snowflake's lights would be along Burnsville Parkway from 35 to Eagle Ridge, as well as East Travelers Trail from Nicollet to Eagle Ridge as well.
Okay.
Then we would talk, because again, driving to Target,
Yeah.
Garland would be Nicollet, Civic
You
Center
mean
to
Cub.
13.
Driving to Cub, not Target.
Yeah. And then lighting in Nicollet Commons.
Yeah.
Basically
Yeah.
going all in to make that a destination.
Okay.
So with that, I'm looking for your feedback, as specific as possible, so I can capture that, so we can get a plan to go forward. And
Tell us about how your conversations with the Burnsville Community Foundation has been with regard to what you presented to us tonight.
So we met with just the leadership to understand kind of the legacy and their goals for it. What I just talked you through this concept
They've seen it.
we have seen it, but even that came from a conversation.
Okay.
It wasn't like, here, we want to do this. It was, what are you talking about? What are your goals? And that's what really was really fun for me about the conversation, is really understanding the 3 different groups that we're trying to engage with and how we do that. So that came out of that conversation that led to the concept, and then Brady took that back to the foundation
Yeah.
to share
Okay.
the comments with.
Good. Okay.
I'll go first.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
I like the uplighting idea, but I don't know how feasible that is in a snowy climate, because I feel like we'd have to clean those off pretty frequently.
And that's exactly what we're doing the pilot project.
Canopy lighting I really like. I like the tree trunk wraps.
And then just follow up, you're good with that being kind of in that Nicollet Commons?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
the spots you have them are appropriate, and I also like your sell on the garland wraps as well. And then building a pretty big wish list here, but I also liked the displays, the idea of putting something kind of unique like that ornament in Nicollet Commons Park is a cool idea, something that you could interact with and walk through. I could see a lot of people interacting with that, going there to take pictures and that kind of a thing. I like the idea of creating that destination on something kind of unique there. I think that's a cool idea.
So one thing I just want to follow up on, this was kind of the idea is we would work with the vendors to get some concepts, and then potentially go to private businesses would be the ones to fund that. Are we consistent on that, or do you have a different vision for how that would work?
Anytime you can fundraise is
That's positive.
yeah. And I think Burnsville has always been pretty good to buy in on this with the foundation, and I think they would probably be receptive to, I mean, if it was somebody else knocking on the door, everybody enjoys this.
And one of the things we definitely are trying to work through as well is what fits in this space. And so that's one of the, as we kind of work this process, is better understanding that of, can you do the walk-through things, or does it need to be those static 2D type interactions?
Yeah.
I like the C9 and C7 bulbs that you're talking about. I think that would really brighten things up quite a bit in the heart of the city. I like the attraction for Nicollet Commons Park that you were showing us here. It's a reason for people just to go into that park in the winter and just kind of hang out, because it's have all the really cool stuff. As far as the uplighting, I know that you can also get the bands on the trees that you can set up 3 or 4 feet off the ground, so the snow's never going to affect those things, and you'll be able to uplight from that as well. So I've done some research on that one a few times, but those are the things I really like about it. And I like the trees, the netting in the trees. That was really
Good
nice,
drawing.
very nice looking.
Kara?
I really like the uplighting. And in fact, so in the areas where right now we have the M5 mini lights and the snowflakes, this is just a personal preference. I do not like that we have trees covered like this and not up here. And I understand why we don't, because of course our trees have grown, right? But that looks odd. Like, we see it all the time, and we're like, oh, okay, no, that looks odd. To just kind of have a portion of the tree done. And so, like, my personal thought is, if you can't wrap that canopy of that tree, don't wrap that canopy of that tree. Do an uplight along with those snowflakes to light that tree. And I know the uplights can be, you know, just a clear light, but they can also be different colors and things like that. So if you wanna make it more festive, you can do it that way. I don't care about bulbs, they don't have a strong feeling on that, so I mean, however that goes, I'm good. I do like the tree trunk wraps, you know, especially in that little area, because that's a nice thing for people to walk through. I like the garland idea, I do like that, that's very nice.
It's like shopping in a catalog, I like everything.
I know, but, well, no, I've said stuff I don't like. I've said stuff I don't like. Yes, if we wanna take lights that we're not using elsewhere and put them on the pergola, why not? And then the displays, as long as those are sponsored by businesses, I have no objection to that.
Dan Kay?
I'll start in the back. I love the display idea. It doesn't have to be a walkthrough. It's a great I mean, that photo at the top with that giant snowflake and the trees in the background, that's unreal. I mean, if we had anything like that, it would get significant attention. Everybody would be going there to get a photo. The other one that I think we may be underestimating the power of what it would look like is if we wrapped that entire Nicollet Commons stage with lights like this pergola example. If you imagine all the uprights, the cross beams, and all the way, you know, all of those vertical strands, wow.
That is what we're planning on doing.
That would be.
That is this concept.
Yeah, I love that.
That would be extraordinarily
Little Clark
incredible.
Griswold actions that we're going for.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I think that would be the focus point. I mean, then you don't have to wrap as many trees, because if those lights were off and they were part of the big switch and that whole stage lit up along with the trees, those trees around the stage would be less of an issue because they're still dark when they flip the switch.
Yeah.
And then you have to look a long distance to see where all the lights are lighting up. So wrapping that stage would be fantastic to me. I would highly recommend doing that. The tree canopy wraps, I think they're gonna be expensive, so I'm not sure we can get there.
Yeah.
But it looks good, but the garland on poles, absolutely no brainer. The only tree that I personally would put big bulbs on is the Christmas tree, the big giant Christmas tree. All the trees having the little mini lights and that whole mini lights all down the roads and stuff. That, to me, it has been, we've been overwhelmed with people saying, I love driving through Burnsville. It's kind of like, why change it? It's like not broken, so, you know. Now, I like the idea that Kara brought up about where you can't do, you know, a tree canopy and just do uplights. So if you can imagine there's an uplight tree and then a lit, you know, canopy tree and an uplight, or two or three in a row, whatever. The combination actually could look really good. I do like uplighting a lot, but the tree canopies that we have today down Burnsville Parkway and partly down Travelers Trail it's a phenomenal, it's a magical winter wonderland in the heart of the city. And I think that's why people love driving through Burnsville, heart of the city, all winter long. When those lights go up until when they come down, they love just driving through because you feel like you're in a different place. Right? And I'm sure why the rest of the city would appreciate getting some of these lights too. That's it. Did you need anything else, like the existing lighting or comments on the snowflakes or anything like that?
No, I'm going to quick summarize what I have here. A quick follow-up, and you bring up a great point, is the reason that the lights only go up, let's say, half the tree is because they are ground done with poles. So
Yeah.
if we want to go to the top, that'll involve a bucket truck,
And that's a pain in the butt.
and it's very expensive.
Yeah.
So
Do we have a bucket truck?
we do.
Yeah.
It's still, yeah, it's
It's expensive.
time.
So
and
we do have a
trees.
bucket
You got
truck.
seasonals, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
just so we know, they do carry a rope up there in case it gets stuck to rappel down. So prefer not seasonals up there.
So, I like what everyone has said. I do want to, that we don't lose the spirit of what all of this is about, because a lot of people get off of 35W and take the Parkway. Why? Because it's lit up. Okay, if we don't canopy it all the way up, we need to just let it lit. We need to have some light, because that, when you drive down the Burnsville Parkway from 35W to Nicollet, it's like an entry into this winter wonderland. And then you either you go north or south on Nicollet, you have this experience. And I think we can't miss the experience of that winter wonderland.
Completely agree, Mayor. And so as we were thinking about this, right, it's exactly that.
Yeah.
Is you come south on 35, you get off of Burnsville Parkway, you drive, you hang left on Pillsbury, you park in the ramp, you go to dinner, you walk across the street to get a coffee, and then you go get your hot chocolate, you get warm, and you take family photos at the Ames Center, right? Like, that's the progression that we thought about as we were kind of trying to line up how this experience changes based on how you move through the space.
And I do like the canopy look. I don't, but we have to take a look at what that cost is. Now, you talk about how we're gonna pay for all of it. So we have the Burnsville Community Foundation. When we bring in other partners, then they're going to have to share the event of turning the lights on. And we have to have a conversation with the Burnsville Community Foundation about sharing that. I know at one time, the Rotary Club contributed, and maybe they can be a contributor. Perhaps the Lions Club could also be a contributor. These are partners that we can talk to.
We are open to any partners that enjoying and joining in this experience.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's about having the conversation with the Burnsville Community Foundation, because if they raise $35,000, and if somebody else can bring in another 35,000, the other two, we're getting close to covering. But I think it is about how we market all of this and our conversations with those organizations that could also partner with us, so that we have a great experience. It's all about the experience coming in to Burnsville. And I know of friends and people who come from other cities, like, well, the ones who talk to me who have been coming because they can't bring their sons or daughters to skate at our ice center, or play hockey, or whatever. They love coming down the Parkway and then going south on Nicollet to come into Civic Center Park. That's the experience that people have when they come, and I don't want to lose that, because it's so. The pergola, yes, but let's look at the partners so that we have a great experience for our residents and for our guests.
Absolutely. Councilmember Augusto, just one quick follow-up. I'm wondering if, looking at the C9s, if you okay if we just price it out for only doing the Christmas tree at the Commons that first year?
I just like the bigger bulbs.
Just to see, because I think it's a static display. Yeah. We could price it out and just see where we're at.
Yeah, I like the C9 there.
On the Christmas tree as part of this initial, just see where, and that's the nice thing too, is
it's brighter.
And I was saying more as we see what works and doesn't work, maybe we don't have to do all the canopies. Maybe we don't have to like only wrap certain ones, but we have to start somewhere to know that.
Okay. I think you have
I do. Thank
consensus
you.
and everything. It's the experience.
That is, so it's honoring the legacy, right?
Yeah.
And making sure that experience is not lost.
Yes.
But also that it still brings joy and excitement to those that are passing.
It does. Yeah, it is.
Okay,
Thank you. Very nice. Okay, now we're going into our roundtable. Michelle? Is scheduling special meetings to canvass the general election yours?
Yes, Madam Mayor, City Council, the statutes require that we canvass, that the City Council has a meeting to canvass election results between the 3rd and the 10th day after the election. That would put the first possible day at Friday, November 8th. And we do know that a quorum of the council will be absent at the NLC conference that following week. And so, Friday, November 8th is still a very viable date for us to do this canvass. Monday, however, is Veterans Day, so that is not an option for us. And I believe Tuesday, we have some of
Be
you
gone.
leaving.
Dan will be gone.
Dan,
I leave on Monday.
he leaves on Monday, you
I
leave on
Tuesday morning,
Tuesday.
yeah. Or Tuesday afternoon, I should
What
say.
time is your flight, Dan?
1 o'clock, something like that. I'll be
So
in
he
the
can do
airport
it in the morning.
No, he's leaving Monday.
And Veterans Day.
But in the afternoon.
In Veterans Day.
That's Veterans Day. We
Oh,
can't have a
sorry.
meeting on Veterans Day.
Okay. Sorry.
And so I don't know about Councilmember Schultz or Councilmember Workman, if you have plans
When
to
are
go
you guys
and-
leaving?
I haven't booked my flight yet.
Neither have I.
Really? There,
Well, all
just so you know,
all
there's
we
a lot of
need,
full
all
flights
I
going down
need
there.
is a
I'm
majority, right?
We only have to have 3 to
Yeah,
canvass.
I only
that's
need a
correct.
majority.
I can
So-
do Friday, November 8th.
Yeah, Friday works.
I can do the 8th.
That works for you?
That works.
Just
That
what
works
time?
for you?
Something like right after lunch, is that, or during lunch even would be
Yeah.
fine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I mean, it only
Yeah,
takes.
let's do
Takes
November
Friday.
8th,
15
and Dan, you're here, you haven't left
Yep.
yet. And,
I'm wide open that day, so whatever.
On
Lunch
the
would be
8th?
great, yeah.
yeah, and
Doing all the
Dan
lunch hour.
G?
It's my birthday, but I'll be here.
Oh,
Okay,
happy birthday.
all right, so
Are you
we're
bringing
doing it
cake
on
for
the
all of us
8th.
then?
8th,
What's that?
and do we have a
Are you bringing
preference on
cake for all of
time,
us then?
like
I can.
1 PM
Would you like that
Would
gluten-free?
you like to have it
I'm
over
making a
lunch?
great tres leche, the gluten-free.
Dan
One?
K?
Lunch would be good.
Or noon? No,
No,
we can do no?
no?
noon would be great. Just
No.
over the lunch hour works a lot better.
Okay, yeah, because, I'm
If it's gonna be
thinking
in the middle of
about
the day.
you and your PTO time.
What time are we doing this?
Yeah, just
Noon.
lunch hour. That's
Noon,
great.
perfect.
You're okay? Noon? Noon, okay.
In there, it's on my calendar.
All right.
All righty. Okay, now we go to reports. Vince?
I have nothing to share.
Our Experience Burnsville board meeting is this Thursday.
Okay. Kara?
So my report is, and it's actually something nice and happy, which is always good. So we do have a resident here, and she is forming a group, which will become an external organization, and hopefully we'll have a liaison with that, to assist in having our Pride event with the community. So she is taking lead on that, and that is Allison Cromie.
Allison what?
Cromie, and she has been meeting with our staff. They've been giving her information on what has happened prior in that and all that kind of stuff. So her and I have been in contact, and she's hoping to get a meeting going, but if you all are okay, if she could just
What can we do
say
to help?
something for 1 minute
Yeah.
and
So
give a little
Alice-
information.
Yeah, Allison, come to the table over here. And are you forming a 501c3?
Yes.
Okay, because that helps a great deal with raising money, Allison.
Yes, it does.
Okay,
Thank you.
Tell us about your vision.
Yeah, no, so I've been a resident here in Burnsville for only a couple of years, actually, since 2022, but I've grew up in the area. And very involved in the LGBT community around the cities here. I've been a vendor and participated in Northfield Pride for a number of years, as well as starting to get into Bloomington Pride. But I was really excited to see that we had one when I finally found out. But I was actually really bummed to see that there were some changes this year, and I thought, well, here's an opportunity to step up and help make sure that continues. We're going to be forming a 501c3. We're going to hold an informational meeting in a couple of weeks. We're just settling on a date. And to get a group of people together, create that nonprofit, put together a board, and really just start taking it to the next steps. So we're going to build on what the city has started and created and hopefully make it an even bigger and just a really good event, I think, because we're between Northfield and Bloomington. There's not as much in the South Metro here for Pride celebrations, that we have a really good opportunity to really celebrate not only within Burnsville, but with the surrounding areas.
And she has a website up.
Yes,
and a Facebook group.
We have burnsvillepride.com as well as Burnsville Pride on Facebook. So if you know anyone who would like to help or would like just general information or to sign up for the mailing list, you can go to the website and submit your email already.
Well, very good. Well,
Allison, thank you for
Yeah.
stepping up.
Yeah,
and
I'm
filling the
excited.
void.
This will be a lot of fun.
Have you thought about what you may need from the city at all for any of this?
I've started going through the paperwork, and I've been working closely with JJ, and I met with Amber this morning. So I've got a really good team giving me the information I need, as well as support from other Pride organizations locally. So
Perfect.
wonderful. Okay. Well,
thank you.
we're here to support and help. So,
Wonderful. Thank you.
yeah, take care. Okay, anything else?
You sat through that
No,
whole
I think
meeting
that's a
just
good
for that
thing.
little.
Okay.
It was a big deal, though.
Dan, okay?
Our MBTA board held our retreat last Friday at the Viking Lakes from 9 till about 1 o'clock. Talked about a lot of things, including going direct with federal funding to get out of the bad model that we're in, that we've been in since 1987, by having our competitor control our purse strings. That has meant funding that has been based on a model that uses past ridership to fund future capital investments and maintenance. And because there's no growth in the inner city, but there is tremendous growth in the suburbs, that has constrained all suburban transit providers' ability to fund things like microtransit and suburb-to-suburb ridership support. So we do a lot of things as STA members. MBTA partners with Amazon, for one example, and there are 4 or 5 other new partnerships that we are working on where the cost sharing is includes the employer or the business that wants to partner with us. Just one thing you have to do when your funding support is strangled. So one of the other things we talked about is we have a new transit sales tax. And that money is controlled by the MPO. And so we're having the exact same problems getting our fair share allocation of that. They're still using past ridership to allocate those funds. If they were to use MVEST, which is another state statute mandated funding source, we would get significantly more, but they're not using that model. There's also RAMVEST, and then there's just by population. We would get 4.5 to 5 times the amount of money from the sales tax if they used population percentage as opposed to past ridership. So the battle goes on. It hasn't changed for over 30 years, unfortunately. We're planning our legislative breakfast and strategies at the legislature when they convene, I think mid-January, as noted earlier. And so it begins. We do work with Met Transit, Met Council. We have meetings each month that I'm involved in, talking with the transportation chair, Deb Barber, and they have agreed with us that past ridership is not the ideal model to allocate funds. And they are also aware of, and they have indicated support for us, MBTA, and it would be Southwest and MBTA, to go direct with funding from the federal government, that it would probably be a more fair allocation and would better support our needs. The tax, I would note that the tax revenue did pretty much backfill all of Met Transit's massive $450 million budget deficit that they run pretty much on a regular basis. So we'll see how long they can stay within budget. The STA providers always stay within budget every year. We don't run deficits. There was a little joke at the retreat. Our finance folks actually had to question how to spell deficit because they never use it. And so they had to look it up just to make sure, because it was a word that they hadn't spelled out for so long that they spelled it out and questioned whether it was spelled correctly. That was a little funny joke. Southwest Transit is starting an autonomous microtransit on November 18th. This is May Mobility. This is the one that I spoke about here at a work session some months ago that we had hoped to have tested in Burnsville or in the MBTA area somewhere by September, and we were going to have some vehicles at our festival. What caused the change was it was a little over $1 million program, and we had significant demand, as I've mentioned, for microtransit vehicles. We can't keep up. So the better decision was to use that money to buy 5 Ram 2500 vans and retrofit them for microtransit, and they have been actually in service for a few months now. This decision was made, 5 months ago or so. But exciting news, we, with some of the sales tax that we have been allocated, we ordered 6 E-Just electric micro minibuses. We tested one last winter. It did exceptionally well in the snow because it's exceptionally heavy. It has lots of really big batteries. And so it did super, actually, in traction in the winter. Those 6 are here. They're being tested, retrofitted, graphicked, and they're going to be in service next month. So these are not autonomous. They have a driver, but they are 100% electric. And their runtime allows them to run for the entire morning rush hour demand for MBTA. They'll go back to the garage, plug in for a recharge, and they'll come back out a few hours later. They actually recharge fairly rapidly, and they'll be back out for the whole evening peak rush. So it works for the same vehicle can operate the 2 peak times of the day. Ridership overall has been fantastic for MBTA. Microtransit continues to grow. These 6 vehicles plus the 6 new E-Just, by the way, those are the first electric minibuses in the country. This is the #1 maker of mini electric buses in the world. They come out of Turkey, and then they have some additional parts that are inserted, like batteries, I think, here in the United States. But we are the first transit organization in the United States to bring in these E-Just vehicles. If you go to Europe or many countries over in Europe, these would be the most common electric minibuses that you'd see. So ridership has been just growing and growing and growing, so I'm pretty excited. We will come back to the May Mobility microtransit, autonomous microtransit vehicles test in late first quarter, second quarter of next year. That is different from a point-to-point. Microtransit today, MBTA Connect, when you use the app and you request a ride, you can sit at your home, and when the van pulls up, you'll get in, it'll take you exactly where you want to go. These autonomous vehicles are actually driving on a fixed grid. So there's specific streets throughout let's say, if it was going to do the heart of the city and maybe over the other side, the west side of 35 and all the way to possibly County Road 11, right? And then south all the way McAndrews, like if this whole area. It wouldn't go on every single residential street. It would go on some of the major ones that cut through the neighborhood. So there'd be a slight walk for. That was another factor that caused us to say, you know what we really need to do is order more vans and just keep feeding our MBTA Connect current service to expand that service. With these E-Just vehicles, I believe we are going to be able to expand into Prior Lake, which has been waiting on microtransit service for a few years, 5 years, 6 years, in first quarter of next year. So we're starting to catch up with vehicles finally. On a festival front, we had our awards dinner on October 9th. We awarded our most valuable volunteer to our operations co-chair, Jason Lowe, who was on our volunteer event committee and co-chair of operations, and we awarded our President's Award to someone you may know, John Hamilton, who's one of our board of directors. John, both John and Jason, of all the hard work that so many people did, those two really did carry a lot of water. John has worked very closely with me over the past 11 months, and there wasn't a week that went by that he didn't call up and say, what else can I do? What else can I do? And he just kept offering up whatever time was that he had every single week to do whatever we needed. And so congratulations to those two winners again. And then a TAB update. Gary Hansen informed TAB at their past meeting of the Southwest Transit Autonomous Microtransit Service pilot program that was going to start in November. And he said he noted that the TAB members were rather taken aback and surprised, like, what? A suburban transit provider is in autonomous already? I think there's such a dominance of Met Transit at these meetings at TAB. Of course, being a leg of the Met Council, they're always in front of TAB reporting on various things. And of course, Met Council is too, but Met Transit Service leadership is always there. And I think people would just assume that an organization that's dramatically larger, of course, than MBTA or Southwest would be innovating something like that, right, in the downtown Minneapolis area, for example. But the innovation continues to come out of our STA members. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, very good. We had our Burnsville Savage meeting, and we talked about Highway 13 project, and reported to them that the county had put back into their CIP the $2 million for the Nicollet and Highway 13 project. So that was good. A lot of discussion about Highway 13 and the improvements on the Savage side that's going to go forward. Then we also talked about SRO updates. Now, and this was a Savage update because they wanted to let us know that Prior Lake schools have asked to have SROs in their middle schools. So they wanted to know if that's going to happen here in Burnsville. And I reported to them that we used to have SROs in the junior high, but then when they went through their budgeting process, those were cut and held on to the SROs to the high school. So that's that. We also reported on the water treatment plant project, and we reported that we were going to have this meeting with Senator Pappas today and talked about what the ask is, thank them for their support throughout all of this process, because they came when the folks from the legislature came to us. Savage also reported that they have their County Road 27 right-of-way they had a right-of-way that comes from what we call Williams, and they have McCall's. And then it goes down, and it was going to go through to 13. But because of the Fen, and there was a lot of issues, and then of course it was going to impact one of their largest employers. Name escapes me right now. So they abandoned that. So they're not going to have that CR 27 go all the way down to 13. And then we talked about the Williams Drive project in Burnsville, because Savage was very much part of that, and they came. And so that's going to, Mark left, but Greg, next year, right? That's a next year CIP. And then we talked about the public safety training facility in Savage, and they train with a group from Scott County, and they go down to a facility that's an old one down in Jordan. And so they're talking about whether they're going to invest in it or not invest, or they're having conversations with BJ so that perhaps they can become part of ABLE. So it's ABLE's.
ABLE.
Yeah.
What's the last letter?
Huh?
What would the last letter be?
S.
ABLE's.
ABLE's. Yeah. So anyway, that's conversation between Savage and the chief. But we don't know. They're looking at what is feasible for their fire folks. So that's that. And then we also had our meeting with MLC, and that was a great update on what's happening. And we met in Minnetonka, and they have a new firehouse in Minnetonka, so we met at their new firehouse. Looks nice. Ours is nice.
Nicer.
Yeah, and then they gave an update of all the things that they were doing, and then there was the scheduled meeting for the regional breakfast, and then we had a guest speaker, and it was Attorney General Keith Ellison, and he talked about the priorities for 2025. And then, of course, we voted on the treasurer's report and the minutes.
What were the 2025 priorities?
Pardon me?
What were Keith's 2025 priorities?
You know, I didn't listen very carefully.
Oh. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I figured, you know,
You've heard it before.
all of that is going to get unfolded depending on the elections,
I'm
right?
sure we'll find out eventually.
And what happens during the elections, right? So, that's all, because there was nothing else, and we have our other meetings coming up. But since a lot of my meetings are quarterly, so, anyway, that's it. Is there anything from staff?
Nothing from staff?
Okay, and with that, we stand adjourned by acclamation. You're only missing a little bit of the voice.